Have you ever noticed how your life seems to swing like a pendulum? One year you push yourself hard, trying to be perfect, trying to control everything, promising that this time you will be disciplined and spiritual enough. And then, when you get tired of being strict, you fall into the opposite. Too much scrolling, too much food, too much talking, too much noise, promising that later you will start again. Back and forth, all or nothing. Extreme effort, then collapse. Somewhere in the middle of this swinging, you may have wondered, even if only once, if Buddha found peace? How? And what would that peace look like in my life right now, in this body, with these problems, in this noisy world? You don't need to answer that out loud. Just let the question sit quietly at the edge of your awareness, like a small candle in a dark room. For a moment, return to your body. Feel the bed beneath you, the pillow under your head, the weight of the blanket lying across your chest and legs. Notice the natural rhythm of your breathing without changing anything. Air coming in, air going out. You don't have to breathe correctly. You don't have to do anything correctly. You only have to be here listening. As you listen, the darkness around you begins to change. The familiar shapes of your room blur at the edges as if the air has turned to water. The ceiling above you feels less like a solid surface and more like a thin curtain, behind which something wider waits. You blink once. When you open your eyes, you're lying on a simple straw mat in a small wooden room. The walls are made of rough planks. There is one open window with no glass, only a wooden frame, and through it you can see the night sky, deep, dark, and full of soft, pale stars. The air that comes through carries the smell of earth, distant trees, and a hint of smoke from a cooking fire that has already gone out. Somewhere outside, a bell sounds once, not loud, not urgent, just a single, clear tone, hanging in the cool air, and then fading. You sit up slowly. Your body feels a little lighter than usual, as if part of the day's heaviness has been left behind. You are dressed in simple, loose clothes, nothing fancy, nothing tight. Your bare feet touch the wooden floor. It is cool and smooth, worn by years of footsteps. You move to the window and look out. Below, you see a small valley, quiet in the night. A path winds through it, bordered by low bushes and a few tall trees that look like dark guardians watching over everything. To your left, several simple buildings sit in a wide U shape. Halls, sleeping rooms, maybe a kitchen. Their roofs are old but strong, their outlines softened by moonlight. You realize you are standing inside a modest Buddhist monastery, somewhere between worlds, between your everyday life and the place where wisdom becomes simple enough to touch. You hear a gentle knock on your door when you open it. An elderly monk stands there, holding a small oil lamp in one hand. The flame is tiny, but the light it gives is warm and steady. His robe is plain, the color of dry earth. His head is shaved, his face is lined, but the lines are soft, like the rings inside an old tree trunk. His eyes are dark and clear, filled with something that feels neither distant nor intense, but quietly awake. "Ah," he says, as if he has been expecting you. "You have arrived on the night of the question." "The question," you repeat. He smiles lightly. "The question that pulls at you between one extreme and another," he says. "The question you never quite say out loud, but which lives under many of your decisions. How am I supposed to live? Am I too strict, too soft, too selfish, too selfless? Where is the way that doesn't break me?" His words land in you like drops of water on dry ground. You follow him as he turns and walks down a simple corridor. His bare feet make almost no sound on the wooden boards. The small lamp casts a circle of light around you, the rest of the hallway melting into shadows. Before we speak of Buddha's wisdom, he says gently, we must do one small thing. What is that, you ask? He lifts the lamp slightly, so its light rests briefly on your face. We must slow you down, he says, just enough for your heart to actually hear. He leads you outside onto a stone veranda. The night air slides over your skin like cool water. Above, the sky stretches immense and silent, dotted with stars. The monk sets the lamp on a low stone ledge and gestures toward a wooden bench. Sit, he says. You sit. He sits beside you, not too close, not too far. The lamp flickers softly between you, a small sun in a very calm universe. For a moment, he says, forget Buddha, forget teachings, forget ideas. Just feel this. He pauses, and his voice slows even more. Feel your feet resting on the ground. Feel the weight of your body sitting on the bench. Feel the air entering your lungs and the air leaving your lungs. You do. Now, he continues, notice that your mind wants to rush ahead. What is the story? What will I learn? Will this fix me? That rushing is one of your extremes. For the time you are here, you do not have to run. Let the story come to you like the wind, not like a task. You breathe again. In, out. Something in your chest loosens a little. When the Buddha was born, the monk begins quietly, he was not called Buddha. He was called Siddhartha. He was a prince, raised in comfort. His father, the king, was terrified of one thing, that his son might see how hard and fragile life really is and leave the palace to seek something deeper. So the king tried to build a golden cage. He filled the young prince's world with music, food, entertainment, beauty. He ordered that no old person, no sick person, no dead body be shown to him. The prince's days were a festival designed to keep him from asking the question you are asking now. Is there more to life than this? The monk glances at you, and there is a quiet understanding in his eyes. Your world is very different from that palace, he says, and yet, in some ways, it is similar. You are surrounded by noise, distractions, endless small pleasures, things that keep you busy, keep you scrolling, keep you buying, keep you tired. They are not evil, but they can keep you asleep. He returns to the story. One day, Siddhartha left the walls of the palace. He saw for the first time what his father had tried to hide, an old man, bent and trembling, a sick man, burning with fever, a corpse, silent on a stretcher. Each time, he asked his charioteer, "What is this?" And each time, the answer was the same. This is old age. This is sickness. This is death. It comes for us all. The prince's world cracked. The festival of distractions no longer satisfied him. The beauty of the palace began to feel like a thin painted curtain over something much heavier. He could not unknow what he had seen. Then he saw one more thing, a wandering ascetic, a man who had left his home and possessions, walking with empty hands and a calm face. Siddhartha asked, "Who is that?" And the answer was, "Someone searching for the cause of suffering and for the way beyond it." That question entered him like an arrow. If suffering is everywhere, is there a way to live that does not break under its weight? You are not a prince. You may not have golden halls or silk curtains, but you have your own version of the palace, the part of your life that tries not to look at pain too closely, hoping that if you stay busy enough, entertained enough, productive enough, the deeper questions will stay quiet. They do not. They scratch at you in the late hours. They whisper when a relationship ends, when a parent gets sick, when your own body begins to show the first signs that it will not always be young and strong. And so you are here, listening. The monk lets the night speak for a moment. A faint breeze moves across the valley. Somewhere, an insect sings. Siddhartha left the palace. The monk continues softly. He did something that terrified everyone around him. He walked away from a life of comfort in order to face reality directly. He went to the other extreme. He lived in forests. He studied with strict teachers. He pushed his body beyond its limits, believing that if he could crush every desire, every instinct, every physical need, he would become pure, wise, free. He ate almost nothing. He slept almost not at all. He pushed and pushed and pushed. Some would look at him and say, disciplined, holy, strong. But he was breaking. There is a story that he became so thin that he could touch his spine by pressing his hand against his stomach. Yet even in that extreme discipline, he found no real peace. His mind was still chained to struggle, this time the struggle to suppress himself. The monk's voice grows quieter, like a secret being shared in a safe place. On one of those days, he says, Siddhartha was walking along a riverbank, weak and exhausted, when he heard something simple. A musician on the opposite shore, tuning a stringed instrument, a lute. One student asked the musician, "How tight should the string be?" "If you pull it too tight," the musician said, "it will snap and make no sound. If you leave it too loose, it will not sing either. Only when it is in the middle, firm but not strained, does it make music." The words were ordinary. The insight was not. In that moment, the Prince Ascetic heard not just advice for a musical instrument, but the outline of a path. Too tight, the string breaks. Too loose, the string is useless. In between, the string sings. He saw his own life laid out in front of him. First, the loose string of the palace, pleasure without depth. Then, the breaking string of extreme self-punishment, discipline without kindness. And something in him realized, wisdom is not found in either extreme. It lives in the middle way. The monk falls silent again, letting the story breathe. Beside you, the small oil lamp burns low, its flame now no bigger than your thumbnail. The night has not changed, but your understanding of it has stretched a little wider. Many people today, he says gently, are still living like that string. They pull themselves tight with rules, goals, expectations. I must meditate perfectly. I must work harder. I must never be lazy. I must always be kind. When they cannot maintain this tension, they snap. Then they swing back to the other side. Nothing matters. I give up. I'll eat, drink, scroll, distract myself until I feel nothing. Back and forth. Too tight. Too loose. The middle way is not a boring compromise. It is the wisdom of making your life into an instrument that can actually make music. He turns slightly toward you. You did not come here tonight to become a statue, he says. You came to learn how to live as a human being who can walk in a world of pain without destroying yourself in the process. So we will not talk about extreme rules. We will talk about balance. He lifts his hands and holds them out in front of him, palms facing each other, as if weighing something invisible. Between discipline and gentleness, between caring for others and caring for yourself, between spiritual practice and ordinary human joy, Buddha did not say, reject everything. He said, see clearly, let go of what harms, cultivate what heals, walk the middle path between. You notice your own breathing again. Is it too tight? Are you forcing it? Or is it too shallow, barely touching your chest? You let it settle somewhere in between, not forced, not lazy, just natural. This is already the middle way, the monk says softly, as if he sees your breath. Not some future achievement, but a small choice, repeated again and again. He stands up, taking the lamp in his hand. Come, he says, there is a hall where we speak more about this, a hall of gentle stories, not of rules. Tonight, I will not give you commandments. I will show you lives, people who tried to live at the edges and people who learned slowly to walk in the middle. Their world looked different from yours, but their hearts were not so different at all. You rise and follow him along the veranda. Your feet meet the cool stone. Your real body, somewhere in your own room, feels the echo of each step as your muscles relax a little more into the mattress. As you walk, the monk speaks again, his voice low and steady, like a stream moving through the dark. The middle way, he says, is not a line drawn on the ground. It is something you feel from the inside. When you push yourself too hard, your body speaks. It tightens, aches, loses joy. When you give up on yourself completely, your heart speaks. It feels empty, restless, ashamed. Buddha's wisdom is learning to listen to both, to adjust your life the way a musician adjusts a string, not out of guilt, but out of love for the music. You reach another building smaller than the others, with wooden doors slightly open. A soft glow spills out, golden and gentle. This is where we will sit for the rest of the night, the monk says. Here we will remember how Buddha walked from one extreme to another, and how he found the balance in between. And we will see what that balance might look like in your life, not in theory, but in small, living choices. He pauses at the threshold and turns to you one more time. If you want to walk the middle way, he says quietly, there is one thing you must leave outside just for tonight. What is that, you ask? The idea that you must be perfect to begin, he replies. Perfection is one of your extremes. Leave it here, like a pair of shoes at the door. You imagine taking off a pair of heavy boots, boots made of all your shoulds and musts and never again promises. You leave them at the invisible doorstep of this hall. Inside, there is only you, exactly as you are now, sometimes disciplined, sometimes lazy, sometimes kind, sometimes sharp, sometimes awake, sometimes asleep. And that is enough. He steps aside, inviting you to enter. When you go in, the light is soft, the air warm. Cushions line the floor. The walls are plain, except for a few simple images: a tree, a river, a mountain path. Things that do not hurry. You sit. The monk sits opposite you, setting the lamp between you. The flame is small but steady, like the beginning of a new understanding. For tonight, he says, we will start with one simple question. Where in your life is the string too tight? Where is it too loose? We will not judge. We will not condemn. We will only see. Because the middle way begins with this: being honest enough to admit where you are. His voice softens even more, like a lullaby. Rest your hands in your lap, he says. Feel your breath. Let the stories come. You do not have to remember every word. Your heart will remember the feeling of balance. Your eyes grow heavier. Your real body, wrapped in its blanket, sinks deeper into the mattress. The monk's silhouette melts slightly at the edges. The lamp flickers once, then steadies. Somewhere between your inhale and your exhale, you realize tonight's journey is not about becoming someone else. It is about finally giving your life a chance to become music. Not too tight, not too loose, guided by the same wisdom that once turned a prince into the Buddha. You breathe in, you breathe out, and as your mind drifts toward the soft edge of sleep, you are ready for the next stories. Stories of real people, just as confused and imperfect as you, learning to walk the middle way, one small, honest step at a time. The hall is so quiet, you can almost hear your own thoughts settle like dust slowly drifting down in a shaft of light. The old monk sits in front of you with the small lamp between you, its flame steady and calm. Outside, the night has no urgency. The world is not asking you to do anything. For once, you don't have to hurry toward sleep or force yourself to be productive. You're just here, breathing, listening. The monk folds his hands in his lap and looks at you with that same gentle, steady gaze. You asked for Buddha's wisdom, he says softly. But Buddha did not give wisdom as a list of quotes to memorize. He gave it as a way of seeing. So tonight, let us not just talk about ideas. Let us watch how extremes destroy peace and how the middle way begins. He pauses, as if listening to something inside himself, then begins. There was once a young monk, he says, who came to the Buddha full of fire. He had heard that this teacher had found a path beyond suffering, and he wanted that path more than anything. He was sure that if he tried harder than anyone else, if he pushed himself further, if he never relaxed, he would reach enlightenment quickly. From the very first day in the monastery, he was intense. He woke before everyone else. He slept after everyone else. He sat in meditation for hours, refusing to move even when his legs were numb. He skipped meals, thinking that hunger would make his spirit lighter. He criticized himself for every restless thought, every moment of distraction, every feeling of doubt. The other monks sometimes admired his energy. He is serious, they said. He is devoted. But the Buddha saw something else, a string pulled so tight it was ready to snap. The old monk glances at you, and for a moment it feels like he is reading the part of you that has tried that same approach, promising yourself that tomorrow you'll be perfect, that you'll meditate for hours, that you'll wake at dawn, that you'll finally fix yourself with pure effort. After some time, the monk continues, the young monk came to the Buddha, exhausted. "Blessed One," he said, "I have done everything I can. I meditate long hours. I sleep very little. I eat the smallest amount possible. I constantly watch my mind. But still, I feel no peace. My thoughts are wild. My body is in pain. I feel like I am failing you. What am I doing wrong?" The Buddha looked at him with compassion. "Before you became a monk," he asked, "what did you do?" "I was a musician," the young man replied. "I played the lute." The Buddha nodded. "Then you know this," he said. "When the string of your lute is too tight, what happens?" "It snaps," the monk answered, "or the sound becomes harsh." "And when it is too loose?" "It makes no sound at all." "And when it is tuned in the middle," the Buddha asked, "neither too tight nor too loose?" The young monk's face softened. "Then the music is clear," he said quietly. The Buddha held his gaze. "In the same way," he said, "when you drive yourself with too much force, when you punish your body and mind, your practice snaps. When you make no effort at all, your practice is dull and lifeless. Only with balance, steady but gentle effort, does your heart awaken. The old monk lets those words float in the warm air between you. You see, he says, the story is simple. But it is not just about monks. It is about you lying in your bed, thinking you must either be perfect or you are worthless. He looks at you more closely, as if seeing the ways you have tried to pull your own inner string too tight. Think of all the times, he says, you have spoken to yourself like this. I will never make a mistake again. I will meditate every day from now on, no exceptions. I will always be calm, always kind, always in control. If I fail once, it means I am weak. It means I am not meant for this path. He shakes his head slowly. This is not the Buddha's voice, he says. This is the voice of fear wearing a spiritual mask. He leans back slightly, letting you breathe. Now, he continues, there was another monk in the same community. His problem was not too much effort, but too little. He liked comfort. He enjoyed talking, laughing, lying in the shade. He meditated when he felt like it. And when he did not, he told himself that everything is already perfect. So there was no need to practice. He mistook laziness for wisdom. He called his avoidance acceptance. Outside, he smiled a lot. Inside, his heart was restless and unsatisfied. One day, he came to the Buddha too. Blessed One, he said, I listen to your teachings and I feel peaceful for a moment. But when I leave, the peace fades. I do not want to live with tension like some of the other monks. I think the middle way means not trying too hard. And yet, I find no deep joy. What am I missing? The Buddha listened with the same quiet patience. Before you became a monk, he asked, what did you do? I was also a musician, the man said. The Buddha's eyes glinted with a hint of humor. Then you too know about strings, he said. The monk laughed. Yes, Blessed One. If I leave them too loose, they are useless. The Buddha smiled gently. In your practice, he said, you have left the strings too loose. You have called your comfort peace and your laziness acceptance. But real peace grows from clear seeing and steady effort, not from avoiding effort. The middle way is not an excuse to stay half asleep. It is the courage to wake up without beating yourself for having slept. The old monk's words fall slowly, one by one, like leaves drifting down from a tree. You see, he says, two men, two extremes. One, too hard on himself, treating his mind like an enemy to be forced into silence. The other, too soft with himself, calling his avoidance wisdom. The Buddha did not reject either of them. He met each where they were and pointed them to the same place, the middle. He looks at you, and somehow the hall feels even more intimate. In your own life, he says gently, this dance between extremes might look different. Maybe you are not a monk. Maybe your too tight is overworking, saying yes to every task, forcing yourself to be strong even when you are exhausted. Maybe your too loose is giving up on your own growth, telling yourself it's useless, that change is impossible, so you just go along with whatever happens. He pauses, then adds quietly, the middle way is not a theory for some other world. It is the art of noticing when you are breaking yourself with effort and when you are abandoning yourself with passivity. He lets you sit with that for a few breaths. In, out. Now, he says, let me show you how Buddha might speak to you if he were sitting right here on the edge of your bed instead of under a tree long ago. His voice shifts, a little warmer, more personal, as if he is imitating a kindness that has been spoken many times. Imagine, he says, that you wake up in your ordinary morning. You look at your tasks, your responsibilities, your hopes. Maybe you feel that familiar wave, I must do everything, I must fix everything, I must not show weakness. That is the tight string speaking. If Buddha were there, he would not scold you. He might say, my friend, your care for life is good, but listen to your shoulders. Feel how they are already tense before the day has even begun. Feel how your breath is shallow. This is not wisdom. This is fear. Let us loosen the string a little. Take one thing at a time. Be kind to your limits. You are not a machine. Later in the day, when you feel the opposite, when you slump in your chair, scrolling, saying, it doesn't matter, nothing will change, why bother? The loose string is speaking. If Buddha were there, he would not say, stay like this forever. He would say, my friend, your rest is needed. But listen carefully. Is this rest or is it escape? Does your heart feel nourished or does it feel more empty? Let us tighten the string just a little. Stand up. Do one small, honest action, not to impress anyone, only to show your own heart that you have not abandoned it. The old monk smiles softly. This is the middle way, he says. Not a fixed point, but a living adjustment. Too tight? Soften. Too loose? Engage again and again with patience. He takes a slow breath and recites a few lines, almost like a lullaby tuned to the rhythm of your own. Too tight, you break. Too loose, you drift. In the middle, something lifts. Not perfection, not control, just enough to wake the soul. You feel your chest rise and fall as his words settle. In this hall, he continues, we do not ask you to choose between being a saint or a failure. We ask you to become a listener to your body, to your emotions, to the small, quiet wisdom that lives beneath your habits. He looks around the hall, the plain wooden walls, the few simple images of tree, river, path. These pictures are here for a reason, he says. Tree, river, path. They are three ways of seeing the middle way. The tree grows slowly, ring by ring, not by hating the winter or worshiping the summer, but by staying rooted in every season. The river does not freeze in one shape. It moves around stones, adjusts to banks, yet still flows toward the sea. The path is not a straight line on a map. It is made by each step, here and now, left, right, slight curve, small climb, small rest. Buddha's wisdom is not a rigid staircase up to the sky. It is a path that passes through your real life, your work, your relationships, your thoughts at midnight, your tiredness at 3 p.m., your doubts, your tiny moments of courage. The monk's voice becomes quieter now as your body grows heavier and more relaxed. For tonight, he says, your practice is very small. As you lie in your bed, think of one place where you have been too tight with yourself, one area where you demand perfection, criticize every mistake, refuse to rest. Notice how your body feels when you think of it. Does your jaw clench? Does your stomach knot? Does your chest feel like a fist? Then, in your own words, whisper inwardly, I see that I have pulled this string too tight. I am allowed to loosen it. I can still care without hurting myself. Next, think of one place where you have become too loose, one area you have almost given up on, your health, your learning, your inner life, telling yourself that nothing you do matters. Notice how your body feels then? Does it feel heavy, dull, empty? And again, whisper, I see that I have left this string too loose. I am allowed to care again. I can take one small step without shaming myself for all the steps I did not take before. He looks at you with surprising tenderness. This is Buddha's wisdom, he says. Not a throne in the clouds, but a quiet voice that helps you tune your own life so that it can become music. He falls silent. The hall is very still. Your breath moves slowly like a tide. Outside, the night watches gently. Inside, something in you has shifted a few degrees toward balance. Not all at once, not dramatically, but enough. You may not remember every story in the morning. You may not keep every promise to yourself. That is all right. The middle way is not a test you pass. It is a relationship with your own heart. For now, it is enough that you are listening. Time here doesn't feel like hours and minutes. It feels more like waves of understanding that rise and fall inside your chest. The small lamp between you and the old monk burns low but steady, its light wrapping the room in a soft, golden circle. The rest of the hall is gentle shadow, wooden beams fading into darkness, simple drawings on the walls, tree, river, path, barely visible now. Outside, the night has grown deeper. Inside, something in you feels a little quieter, a little less pulled from side to side. The monk studies you for a moment, his gaze kind and unhurried. In the last story, he says softly, you met two monks, one breaking himself with effort, the other drifting away in comfort. Both were far from the middle way. Both were invited back to balance. He tilts his head slightly. But most of us are not monks, he continues. Most of us are like the people in the villages the Buddha walked through. People with work, families, habits, small joys, small sorrows. The middle way is not only for those in robes, it is also for you, lying in your bed, trying to survive your own mind. He folds his hands loosely in his lap. Tonight, he says, I will tell you about a man who thought the middle way was too simple for him, and yet it was the only thing that could save his life from breaking. He closes his eyes for a moment as if reaching back through many years, and then begins. There was once a man named Kema, he says. He was not a prince, not a monk, not a scholar. He was busy, busy with his work, busy with his house, busy with his thoughts. He owned a small workshop in a crowded town. From dawn until late at night, he carved wood for other people, chairs, tables, doors, shutters. His hands were strong, his back was tired. His mind was always elsewhere. When business was good, he worked too much. He promised himself he would rest when the orders slowed down. When business was slow, he panicked. He blamed himself. He tried to work even harder, adding more hours, pushing his body past its limits. At home, he did the same with his heart. On good days, when his family smiled and his children played quietly, he told himself, if I keep everyone happy, everything will be fine. He said yes to every request, fixed every problem, apologized for everything, even when it was not his fault. On bad days when people argued or were ungrateful, his heart snapped. He became harsh, impatient, cold. Why do I bother? He thought. Nothing I do is enough. Too tight, too loose, too much effort, then total collapse. He tried visiting different teachers. One told him, work harder. Discipline is everything. You must conquer your mind. Another told him, relax. Life is an illusion. Don't take anything seriously. Both teachings made sense in words, but in his body, neither felt like a place he could live for long. One night, unable to sleep, he left his house and walked out of town, hoping the cool air would quiet his thoughts. The moon was high, The road was empty. After some time, he saw a small group of simple huts at the edge of a forest, with a few monks sitting quietly under the trees. He had heard of the Buddha before, as people in the market talked, some with admiration, some with skepticism. He did not know what he believed. He only knew that his life felt like a rope burning at both ends. He approached the group, hesitating. One of the monks saw him and smiled, inviting him to sit. The man sat, his whole body buzzing with tiredness. "I have no special question," he said. "I am just tired of swinging between everything and nothing. When I try to be good, I break. When I stop trying, I drift. I heard your teacher speaks of a middle way, but to be honest, it sounds too easy. I have tried so many things. Can balance really be enough?" The Buddha, who had been sitting a short distance away in silence, opened his eyes and turned toward him. "You say you have no question," he said gently, "and yet I hear a very important one. Can something so simple truly help a life that feels this complicated?" The man lowered his eyes. "Yes," he whispered, "that is exactly what I am asking." The old monk in front of you looks at you quietly. "Perhaps this is your question too," he says. "Your world is full of complicated answers, books, courses, methods, systems. The idea that breathe more gently, stand in the middle, walk with balance could change anything may sound childish. But the Buddha did not confuse simple with small. He knew that the hardest things, the things we resist most, are often very simple. He returns to the story. The Buddha asked the man, "How do you live your days?" Kema described his life, the long hours in the workshop, the constant worry about money, the pressure to keep his family satisfied, the way he scolded himself for every mistake. "When business is good," the Buddha asked, "how do you treat your body?" "I push it," the man admitted. "I don't rest. I work from before sunrise until after dark. There is no time for stillness. And when business is bad, I lie awake thinking," the man said. "I move slower at work, but inside my mind races. I feel guilty for resting, so even when I sit down, my muscles stay tense." The Buddha nodded. "And how do you speak to yourself?" he asked. The man hesitated, then answered truthfully. "When I do well, I tell myself, 'You still could have done more.' When I fail, I call myself lazy, useless, weak. I tell myself, 'Someone like you will never live wisely.'" The Buddha's eyes were gentle, not shocked. "So," he said, "your body is driven beyond its limits, and your mind is whipped with harsh words. Tell me, if you treated a sick animal this way, would it heal faster?" The man looked down at his hands. "No," he said quietly, "it would get worse." "Then why?" the Buddha asked. "Do you believe your heart is different?" The man did not know what to say. The old monk lets you feel the weight of that question inside your own chest. "How many times," he asked softly, "have you tried to force yourself into peace with the tools of war? Pushing, scolding, shaming, demanding?" He doesn't wait for an answer. The answer is already alive in the way your shoulders feel, the way your jaw holds, the way your thoughts run in circles when you can't sleep. The Buddha did not tell Kema to quit his work, the monk continues. He did not tell him to run away into the forest or to give up his responsibilities. He offered him something both smaller and more radical, a way to weave the middle way into his everyday life. "You are not asked," the Buddha said, "to change your entire world today. You are asked to change how you walk in it." He gave the man 3 simple practices, one for his body, one for his speech, one for his mind. The monk lifts one finger. First, he says, the body. Each day, the Buddha told him, you will choose one moment when you would normally push your body past its limit. One more hour of work when you are already shaking with fatigue. One more task when you are already stumbling. In that moment, you will stop for just 3 breaths. You will feel your feet on the ground. You will feel your back, your shoulders. You will ask, if I were caring for a tired friend's body instead of my own, what would I tell them to do? If the honest answer is rest, you will obey that answer at least once each day. Not always, not perfectly, but once. This is how you begin to loosen the string that is too tight. The monk lowers his finger and raises another. Second, he says, the speech. Each day, the Buddha said, you will notice one moment when you are about to speak to yourself with cruelty, a moment of mistake, clumsiness, forgetfulness. You will catch the first insult rising on your tongue. Idiot, useless, hopeless, and you will not say it. Instead, you will speak to yourself as you would to a child who tried and failed. You may say, that was not wise. Let us see what we can learn. But you will not use words that you would be ashamed to hear from the mouth of a teacher you respect. This is how you begin to tune the voice inside you from a whip into a guide. A third finger lifts. Third, he continues, the mind. Each day, the Buddha said, you will choose one small, manageable practice for your mind. Not hours of meditation, not heroic vows. Something that you can actually do. Perhaps 5 minutes of watching your breath. Perhaps 10 steps of walking slowly and feeling each foot touch the earth. Perhaps one meal eaten in silence, noticing the taste, the texture, the feeling of receiving nourishment. You will do this not to prove anything, not to impress anyone, but as an act of friendship toward your own mind. When you forget, you will begin again the next day. This is how you tighten the string that has been left too loose. The old monk's eyes are soft when he looks at you. Body, speech, mind, he says quietly. This is where the middle way lives for a person like you. Not in theories, but in how you treat your own body when it is tired, how you speak to yourself when you fall, how you give your mind small moments of stillness instead of endless noise. He lets you sit with those 3 practices for a long breath, then continues the story. Kema listened, he says. At first, he was disappointed. That's all? He asked. 3 small things? I thought the path beyond suffering would be bigger, more dramatic. The Buddha smiled. Tell me, he said, which is harder, to change 1,000 things in your imagination or to change one small thing in your day? Which requires more courage, to dream about a different life or to stand inside this life and make one honest choice? The man felt something shift inside him. He had built his whole identity around being the one who could handle everything, who could push through any exhaustion, who never needed kindness. The idea that wisdom might begin with rest, gentle words, and small practices felt uncomfortable, but also, somewhere deep, it felt like relief. He bowed his head. I will try, he said. The old monk smiles softly at you, as if he can see the same mixture of skepticism and hope inside you. Kema went back to his life, he says. The town had not changed. His work had not changed. His family had not changed. The world did not suddenly become peaceful for his convenience. Only one thing was different. He carried the Buddha's simple instructions in his daily actions. The first time he stopped after a long day when his hands were shaking, Every voice in his head protested. Lazy, the old voice said. Irresponsible. Others work harder. You will fall behind. He felt his jaw clench, his chest tighten. But he remembered the first practice, 3 breaths. He put down his tools. He stood still. He felt his feet on the ground. He listened to his breath. He imagined that his body belonged to a friend he cared about. What would he say then? Sit for a moment, drink some water, stretch your back. So he did. The world did not end. The workshop did not collapse. He lost a few minutes of work. He gained a small piece of peace. The monk's voice slows, matching your own breath. The first time he refused to insult himself for a mistake, he continues, his tongue burned with unspoken habits. He dropped a board. The wood cracked. The old words rose immediately. Stupid, look what you did. But he remembered the second practice. He stopped the sentence in the middle and changed it. That was clumsy, he said inwardly, but I am learning. How can I repair this? It felt strange, almost weak, to speak gently to himself. But beneath the discomfort, there was a tiny sense of dignity returning, like a small flame protected from the wind. The first time he gave his mind 5 minutes of real rest, sitting quietly and watching his breath, he was restless. Thoughts jumped like monkeys, plans, regrets, worries. He wanted to stand up and get back to work. He wanted to call the practice useless. But he remembered the Buddha's words, steady but gentle effort. So he stayed. Just 5 minutes, no more, no less. He did not feel enlightened afterward, but he felt more present in his own life that evening, as if the noise inside his head had been turned down a little. The monk's eyes shined softly. This, he says, is how the middle way moves through an ordinary life in very small adjustments, repeated again and again. No one watching from outside would say, "Look how holy this man is." But his body slowly stopped breaking. His mind slowly stopped biting itself. His heart slowly started trusting that it was not alone. He leans a little closer to you, his voice becoming almost a whisper. In your own life, he says, you may be tempted to think, this is too little. I need something powerful, dramatic, life-changing. But ask yourself honestly, have the dramatic promises worked? How many bold declarations have you made and broken? How many times have you sworn you would become a completely different person by Monday? The Buddha was not interested in impressive vows. He was interested in what you actually do with your next breath, your next thought, your next word to yourself. He sits back and lets his hands rest again. So tonight, he says, as you lie here listening, you can begin Kama's practice without moving from your bed. For the body, notice if you are clenching anywhere, jaw, shoulders, stomach. On your next exhale, let that place soften by just 1 degree. Not perfectly, just a little. For the speech, listen for any harsh sentence you might be saying inside about yourself right now. I am broken, I am ridiculous, I will never change. You do not need to fight it. Just add another sentence beside it. I am learning to walk in the middle. I am allowed to begin slowly. For the mind, give yourself a few breaths where you do nothing except feel the air come in and go out. Thoughts will still come. That is fine. Each time you notice you are lost in them, gently, kindly, bring your attention back to the breath. Not as a punishment, as an act of friendship. He recites a few soft lines, time to your breathing. In this breath, I do not conquer, I do not collapse, I simply stay. not forcing, not fleeing, just one living middle way. You feel your chest rise and fall in that rhythm. Outside, the night continues. The world beyond your room goes on with its own noise and movement. But in this hall, there is only you, the monk, the lamp, and the quiet ancient invitation to stop swinging between extremes and to start walking one step at a time in the middle. You may not notice the change at first. The middle way often arrives like this, almost invisible. But days from now, weeks from now, you may catch yourself in a familiar situation, about to push too hard or about to give up. And remember, the string, the lute, the three simple practices, and maybe, just for that moment, you will choose differently. For now, it is enough to lie here, listening, letting the Buddha's wisdom seep into the places in you that are tired of being pulled to the edge. The monk's voice grows softer, blending with the quiet around you. Rest, he says. We will continue with more stories about fear, about desire, about compassion in the next watch of the night. For now, let these small seeds of the middle way settle into the soil of your heart. You do not need to force them to grow. You only need to let them be planted. Your breath moves in and out. Your body is heavy and safe. And somewhere deep inside, beneath all your extremes, a new, quieter possibility hums. Not too tight, not too loose. A life tuned, slowly, to the middle way. The lamp between you and the old monk burns lower now, the flame small but steady, like a single star that refuses to leave the sky before it has finished its work. You are still in the hall of stories. Your body feels heavier, softer. Your thoughts move more slowly, like leaves floating on a quiet river. The monk watches you with a gentle, knowing look. Your breath is calmer now, he says softly. That is good. When the mind stops rushing quite so much, it can finally hear the quieter truths. We have spoken of effort and laziness, of strings too tight and too loose. There is another pair of forces that pull you away from the middle way every day, whether you notice them or not. His eyes shine in the lamplight. Fear and desire, he says, pushing away and grabbing. In the Buddha's language, aversion and craving. Most of human restlessness is born from these two. He lets those words hang in the air. You do not have to know any special terms, he continues. You already know how they feel. Fear shrinks you, desire pulls you. The middle way does not kill these forces. It teaches you how to walk without being dragged by them. He closes his eyes for a moment, then begins another story. There was once a man, he says, who came to the Buddha wearing armor. He was a soldier, a warrior from a nearby kingdom. His armor shone in the sun, his sword was sharp, and people feared him wherever he went. Outside, he looked strong, unbreakable. Inside, he was terrified. He was afraid of losing his rank, afraid of losing his strength, afraid that if he ever admitted his fear, he would stop being who he thought he was. One evening, after many battles, he came to where the Buddha was teaching. He stayed far back at first, standing in the shadows, listening. The monk's voice slows, inviting you to picture it clearly. The Buddha spoke of fear that night. He said, "Fear is like a fire. It can burn your house down if you let it rage uncontrolled, but if you learn how to hold it in a lantern, it can light your way." The soldier felt something twist inside him. He knew fire very well. He had seen villages burned, fields blackened. He also knew lanterns carried by travelers at night. How do I turn this fire into a lantern? He wondered. My fear is everywhere. It burns in my chest before every battle. It haunts me at night. It drives me to chase more victories, more strength, more respect, because I am terrified of being seen as weak. At last, he stepped forward and knelt before the Buddha. "Teacher," he said, his armor clinking softly, "I am not like your monks. I live with weapons. I know how to fight enemies I can see. But the enemy that lives inside me, my fear, I do not know how to face. I conquer others, but I cannot conquer this. What should I do?" The Buddha looked at him quietly. "First," he said, "you must stop calling your fear an enemy." The soldier blinked. "But if I do not fight it," he said, "it will control me." The Buddha shook his head gently. "Right now," he said, "it already controls you. It controls you every time you act only to hide it. It controls you when you chase victory just so you will not have to feel small. The more you fight it, the more it grows. The middle way does not command you to love your fear or to obey it. It asks you to sit with it, to listen to it, to see what it is protecting." The old monk pauses and looks at you. "Fear always thinks it is protecting something," he says softly. "Your reputation, your image, your comfort, your heart. Sometimes it protects real dangers. Sometimes it guards only illusions." Buddha's wisdom begins when you stop running from fear long enough to ask, "What are you trying to protect?" He returns to the story. The Buddha invited the soldier to remove his helmet and sit. "Close your eyes," he said. "Feel your breath. Then ask your fear a question. What are you most afraid will happen if I stop pretending to be strong all the time?" The soldier did as he was told. At first, his mind was noisy. Thoughts of battle, images of enemies, memories of shouting and running and clashing metal. But the Buddha's voice stayed with him. "Feel your breath, ask your fear, and then be quiet." Finally, a small, clear answer appeared, not as words in his ears, but as a knowing in his chest. "If you stop pretending to be strong, you will be seen. If you are seen, you might not be loved." The soldier's throat tightened. He realized that everything he had built around himself, the armor, the reputation, the victories, was a shield against this one old wound, the belief that without power, he would not be worthy of love. He opened his eyes, shaken. "So my fear is a child?" he asked. "A child who thinks he must be invincible to be loved?" The Buddha's eyes were soft. "Yes," he said, "your fear is a younger part of you, still trying to keep you safe with old strategies. You have been beating him as if he were an enemy, when what he needed was to be listened to and held." The soldier felt something break open inside him, not like a weapon shattering, but like ice cracking in spring. He bowed his head. "How do I walk the middle way with this fear?" he asked. The old monk's voice becomes very gentle. The Buddha said, "You do not need to become fearless. You need to become honest and kind with your fear. When fear arises, you will not drown in it or run from it. You will notice it. Fear is here. You will feel where it lives in your body, perhaps in the chest, the throat, the belly. You will breathe there, not forcing it away, not feeding it with stories of doom. You will ask it, 'What are you trying to protect?' And you will answer, 'Thank you, I see you, but I choose my actions from wisdom, not from panic.' This is the middle way between obeying fear and denying it." The lamp in the hall flickers softly as the monk watches you. "In your life," he says, "fear may not wear armor, but it has many disguises. It may sound like, 'If I speak honestly, they will leave. If I slow down, everything will fall apart. If I try and fail, I will prove that I am worthless. You do not defeat fear by screaming at it to disappear. You do not become wise by obeying it blindly. You walk the middle way when you say, "Fear is here. I feel you. I will not let you drive my every choice." He lets you rest with that for a breath or two. In, out. The Buddha knew, however, the monk continues, that fear is only one half of the pulling. The other half is desire, craving. He smiles faintly. Sometimes desire is obvious, a craving for pleasure, wealth, praise. Sometimes it is more subtle, a craving for certainty, for control, for spiritual achievements. The middle way asks you to walk between drowning in desire and trying to crush it completely. He begins another story. There was once a rich merchant, he says, who came to the Buddha with a restless heart. He had everything people around him admired, a large house, many servants, fine clothes, full storerooms, carts, animals. His family was comfortable. His name was respected. And yet he could not sleep. He lay awake at night counting his treasures, not with joy, but with anxiety. What if I lose this, he thought. What if someone steals it? What if a storm destroys my ships? What if my children waste what I have earned? The more he gained, the more he feared losing it. The more he held, the more heavy his heart became. He heard that the Buddha spoke about desire and peace, and he decided to visit. When he arrived, he did not bow or sit at once. He paced back and forth, his fine robe swishing, dust rising from his sandals. "Teacher," he said, "they tell me you say desire leads to suffering. But if I give up everything, how will my family live? How will the world function? Are we all supposed to be beggars? That sounds impossible." The Buddha regarded him with calm eyes. "I do not say that all possessions are suffering," he answered. "I say that clinging is suffering." The merchant frowned. "What is the difference?" he asked. "If I have things, do I not cling to them?" The Buddha gestured to a nearby tree where a bird was perched on a branch. "Look," he said, "the bird rests on the branch. The branch supports it. When the time comes, the bird flies away. The branch does not beg it to stay. The bird does not curse the branch for letting it go. You, however, wrap your mind around your possessions like a fist that never opens. You are not resting on them. You are hanging from them over a cliff. No wonder you cannot sleep." The merchant paused, imagining himself dangling from his own riches. "I do not know how to open my hand," he admitted. "If I loosen my grip, I fear I will lose everything." The Buddha's gaze was kind. "You will lose everything anyway one day," he said gently. "Not because I wish it, but because all things change. Your wealth, your body, even your name. None of these can be carried forever. The middle way is not to throw away your life today in disgust, nor to cling to it in terror. It is to use what you have with wisdom, knowing that it is borrowed, not owned." The monk looks at you, measuring how that lands. "In your world," he says softly, "desire may be for money, yes, but also for attention, for likes, for status, for being seen as good or special." The Buddha did not tell everyone to become poor. He told them not to tie their entire identity and peace to what can be taken away. He returns to the story. The Buddha gave the merchant a practice too. Each day, he said, take one small thing you have, a coin, a little food, a piece of cloth, and give it away with a peaceful heart, not to impress others, not to show how generous you are. Do it in secret if you can. As you give, say in your heart, "This was never truly mine. I am grateful it passed through my hands." The merchant was surprised. "How will that help?" he asked. "You are building a new habit," the Buddha replied. "You are teaching your fist how to open a little at a time. One day, when life takes something larger from you, your hand will remember how to release without tearing your heart apart." The monk folds his hands, his beads resting lightly against his fingers. "Fear and desire," he says quietly, "holding on and pushing away. The middle way does not demand that you become empty of all feeling. It invites you to stand in the center of your own life and say, 'I feel fear. I feel desire. I do not have to worship either.'" He watches you for a long moment, then adds, "In your own bed, in your own nights, you can practice exactly this. When fear rises about the future, about loss, about not being enough, you can put a gentle hand on your chest and think, 'Fear is here. I know you. I will breathe with you. I will not let you write the whole story.' When desire rises, wanting more, wanting different, wanting to escape, you can say, 'Desire is here. I know you. I will not hate you, but I will also not let you pull me away from what I know is right.' The lamp's light is very soft now, barely more than a glow, but enough. The monk's voice becomes almost like a song, slow and steady. Fear says run. Desire says grab. The middle way says stay, look, breathe. Not frozen, not frantic, simply awake to what is here. He gives you a moment to feel that inside your body. Tonight, he says, you have met three kinds of teaching. The teaching of the string, too tight, too loose. The teaching of fear, enemy, turned into frightened child. The teaching of desire, fist slowly learning to open. All of them are doors to the same room, a life where you are no longer thrown back and forth by every inner storm. His eyes are gentle, steady. You may still feel afraid. You may still feel desire. You may still swing between effort and collapse. That is all right. The Buddha did not promise the end of weather. He showed how to stand in the rain without drowning. He looks toward the doorway, where the faintest hint of dawn gray is beginning to touch the edge of the sky. We will speak more, he says, about compassion, about anger, about how to live with others while walking your own path. For now, as you drift toward sleep, let this be your simple practice. When you notice one of your extremes, do not curse yourself. Just smile a little inside and say, ah, too tight, or ah, too loose. Then ask quietly, what would the middle look like, just for this next breath? You don't have to answer in words. Your body will know. Maybe the middle is one deeper exhale. Maybe it is loosening your jaw. Maybe it is allowing a tear to fall instead of holding everything in. Maybe it is turning off the screen and finally closing your eyes. The monk's voice is now almost part of the darkness itself. Breathe, he murmurs. You are learning to walk between fear and desire, between forcing and giving up. That is already a great courage. The middle way is not somewhere else. It is here, in you, every time you choose not to abandon yourself to your loudest impulse. Your breath moves in and out, slow and heavy. Outside the hall, the night continues its quiet turning toward dawn. Inside you, the Buddha's wisdom is not a distant story anymore. It has become a small, steady lantern, a fire that does not burn the house down, light you can carry into every corner of your life, one gentle, honest step at a time. The night has grown so deep that it feels almost like the world is holding its breath. The little lamp between you and the old monk is smaller now, its flame thin and soft, but somehow it still gives enough light to keep the shadows gentle instead of frightening. The hall feels like the inside of a slow heartbeat, warm, quiet, rhythmic. You notice your own breathing again, in, out. Heavy now, slow and steady, like waves that have finally stopped crashing and are just rolling quietly onto the shore. The monk looks at you for a long time without speaking, not studying, just being with you. When people first hear about the middle way, he says at last, voice low and calm, they often think it is only about how they treat themselves, how much they work, how they rest, how they speak inside their own mind. But there is another place where extremes cause the deepest suffering. He pauses. In how we treat each other. His eyes darken slightly, not with anger, but with the weight of what he has seen. Buddha walked through villages where people shouted, fought, blamed, clung, pushed away. He saw what you see, families tearing at one another, friends turning cold, strangers judging each other without understanding. He saw kindness too, but he knew that most people swing between two extremes, hardness and collapse, anger and numbness. Either they explode or they disappear. The middle way between hearts is called compassion. He lets the word rest between you like another small flame. Tonight, he says, I will tell you about someone who tried very hard to be good to others until something broke inside him. Only then did he understand what Buddha meant by compassion that walks in the middle. He closes his eyes briefly, then begins. There was once a man named Sona. He was known in his town as a very polite person. He tried always to say the right thing, to keep peace, to avoid conflict. If someone hurt him with words, he swallowed his pain and smiled. If someone took advantage of him, he told himself it was his duty to be patient. He mistook silence for kindness. Inside, resentment grew like a hidden storm. Everyone thinks I am calm, he thought, but they don't see what it costs me. They don't see the anger I lock in my chest every time I say nothing. He believed anger itself was wrong. So when it appeared, he turned it inward. He did not shout at others, he shouted at himself. A good person wouldn't feel this, he thought. A spiritual person wouldn't be angry. Something is wrong with me. One day, after a particularly hard week of being calm on the outside and burning on the inside, Sona heard that the Buddha was nearby. He went to listen. The monk's voice slows, inviting the scene to form in your mind. The Buddha spoke that day about two fires, the fire that burns others and the fire that burns you. When anger arises, he said, it is like a spark landing on dry grass. If you throw it outward with harsh words, you burn those around you. If you press it inward with self-hatred, you burn yourself. The middle way is not to pretend there is no fire. It is to hold it where it can warm without destroying. Sona felt those words land in the center of his chest like a stone dropping into deep water. After the talk, he approached the Buddha. Teacher, he said, I have tried to be kind all my life. I avoid arguments. I do not shout. I do not insult. People say, Sona is so peaceful. But inside, I am boiling. Sometimes I imagine saying everything I really think. I imagine breaking things, walking away, burning down every false smile. Then I hate myself for even thinking that. I don't know which is worse, becoming the storm or swallowing it. Is there a way in the middle? Because I do not want to hurt anyone, but I am hurting anyway. The old monk looks at you with quiet understanding. Perhaps, he says gently, there is a part of you that knows this feeling, always trying to be good, nice, calm, while something inside your chest is pounding on the walls, asking to be seen. He returns to the story. The Buddha listened carefully. "Tell me," he asked Sona, "when you stay silent to keep peace, what does your body feel like?" Sona thought. "Tight," he said. "My throat closes. My chest feels heavy. My jaw hurts from holding words back." "And when you imagine letting your anger explode outward?" Sona shifted uncomfortably. "I feel powerful for a moment," he admitted. "Then scared, ashamed. I see myself as a monster in my own mind." The Buddha nodded. "And when you hate yourself for having these feelings at all?" Sona's shoulders sagged. "I feel small," he whispered, "like a child being punished over and over with no way to be good enough." The Buddha looked at him with a gaze that held both firmness and tenderness. "You are standing," he said, "between two extremes. On one side, you crush your anger and call it goodness. On the other, you dream of releasing it like poison. But neither is compassion, not for others and not for you. The middle way with anger is to see it, to understand it, and to let it move through you without turning it into a weapon." The monk tilts his head and studies you as if inviting you into that same lesson. "Most people," he says softly, "believe they have only two options: be nice and swallow everything, or be honest and explode." Buddha offered a third way. He continues. He said to Sona, "When anger appears, do not say, 'This should not be here.' Instead say, 'Ah, this is anger. Something in me is hurting. Something in me feels threatened.' You do not have to act on it. You do not have to believe every story it tells. You only have to sit with it, the way you might sit with a crying child. Ask it, 'What are you afraid of? What have you been carrying alone?' As you listen, the flames begin to lower. They turn from fire into light. Then, when you speak to others, you speak not from burning, but from clarity." Sona frowned. "But what if my anger is wrong?" he asked. "What if I am overreacting?" The Buddha replied, "Anger is not a judge. It is a messenger. Sometimes its message is clear: this is not safe, this is not fair. Sometimes its message is confused. Either way, if you kill the messenger, you will not understand the message. The middle way is to listen without letting anger drive your actions." The monk's voice grows softer, almost like a slow river. "In your own life," he says, "you may have been told that good people do not get angry, or that if you are spiritual, you should always be calm." But the Buddha did not say that. He himself saw injustice, cruelty, ignorance. He felt what any human feels. The difference is that he did not use his anger as a weapon. He used it as a signal. Something here needs wisdom. Something here needs compassion. He pauses to let that sink in. Sona asked, "How do I practice this in my daily life? I cannot walk around with my eyes closed meditating all day." The Buddha gave him 3 simple steps. Again, nothing dramatic, but very real. The monk lifts one hand and counts on his fingers. "First," he says, "notice. When anger arises," Buddha said, "name it softly. Anger is here. Not I am anger, not I am bad, just anger is here. Feel where it lives, in the chest, the throat, the belly, the face. Breathe there. You do not have to be calm. You only have to be aware. This is the middle way between throwing anger at others and pretending it is not there." He raises a second finger. "Second, listen. Ask your anger," Buddha said, "what it is trying to protect. Is it trying to protect your pride, your image, or something more tender, your need to be seen, respected, safe? If you find that it protects only pride, bow to it and let it pass. If it protects something tender, thank it and ask, how can I care for this tenderness without harming others? A third finger lifts. Third, speak from the heart, not from the flame. If you must speak, Buddha told him, wait until the fire has lowered, then speak about how you feel, not about how evil others are. Instead of, you always, you never, you are terrible, say, when this happens, my heart feels hurt, my body tightens, my mind is afraid. This is the middle way, neither swallowing your truth nor using it as a sword. The monk looks at you, his eyes gentle. You may think this is too soft, he says. You may feel that your anger is too strong, that if you do not explode, you will break. But think of the times you did explode. Did you feel free afterward? Or did you feel guilty, alone, misunderstood? The Buddha was not interested in you being right. He was interested in you being free. He lets you sit with that. Your body, lying on your real bed, may remember moments when your anger burst outward like a storm, and the silence after felt even heavier, or moments when you held everything in, smiled, said nothing, and later cried where no one could see you. The middle way in relationships, the monk says quietly, is compassion that begins inside. Compassion does not mean agreeing with everyone. It does not mean tolerating harm. It does not mean smiling while you are breaking. Compassion means seeing clearly that everyone, including you, is carrying heavy burdens. Fear, desire, ignorance, old wounds. It means refusing to add more violence, either toward others or toward yourself, when those burdens spill over. He leans back slightly, and his voice softens even more. Buddha once said, he continues, holding on to anger is like grasping a hot coal with the intent of throwing it at someone else. You are the one who gets burned first. People often remember only that part. They think the advice is, drop the anger quickly, be calm. But they forget that he also saw why anger appears at all. Because something inside us is hurting and wants to be protected. You do not heal a burn by pretending it doesn't hurt. You heal it by cooling it, caring for it, and refusing to press it against more hot surfaces. He smiles gently, as if sharing a secret between old friends. So, he says, if the Buddha sat at the end of your bed tonight and asked, how do you treat your own anger? What would you answer? Do you turn it against yourself? Turn it against others? Or are you learning to hold it gently like a fire in a lantern? He lets the questions drift into the quiet. For tonight, he says, you do not need to fix your relationships. You do not need to forgive everyone who hurt you. You do not need to become perfectly patient. Your practice is smaller, kinder. When you remember a moment that still burns, something someone said, something someone did, notice what happens in your body. Does your chest tighten? Does your jaw clench? Do old sentences rise? They always, I never, I should have. Place a hand on your chest if you can. Feel the warmth of your own palm. And instead of saying, I should be over this, try saying, of course this hurts. Anyone with a heart would feel this. Then add very quietly, I am learning not to let this hurt turn my whole heart into a weapon. The monk's voice is now almost a whisper. This, he says, is compassion in the middle way. You do not excuse harm. You do not deny pain. You simply refuse to become what hurt you. He lets that last line echo softly. Outside, the night is beginning its slow shift toward dawn. Inside, the hall feels like it has grown wider, as if your heart has a little more room to move. The lamp between you is very small now, but it still burns. Later, the monk says, we will speak of forgiveness, of guilt, of how to live with the things you cannot change. But for this moment, as your body grows heavier and sleep comes nearer, let this be your gentle mantra, if it feels true. I am allowed to feel my anger. I am allowed to feel my hurt. I am learning to hold both without destroying myself or others. He speaks one last verse for this part of the night, timed with your breath. Fire in my chest, I see you there. I will not throw you. I will not stare. I'll place you softly in a light and walk the middle through this night. Your eyes, in your real room, grow heavier. Your muscles soften. Your breathing finds its slow rhythm. You are not being asked to become a saint. You are being invited, one small heartbeat at a time, to live a little less at the edges and a little more in the gentle, honest center where Buddha's wisdom quietly waits inside your very own heart. The night outside the hall is beginning to thin at the very edges, like ink slowly diluting in water. But in here, the darkness is still warm and deep. The little lamp between you and the old monk is almost down to a glowing ember of flame. It doesn't light the room so much as it softens the shadows, turning them from something the mind could fear into something the heart can rest inside. You feel your own body heavy and safe, both here on the cushion and at the same time in your real bed, under your own blanket. Two places, one quiet breathing. The monk takes a long, slow breath as if gathering the next thread of the night's teaching. We have spoken, he says softly, about effort and laziness, fear and desire, anger and compassion. There is another visitor that comes to almost every human heart in the path, one that pretends to be moral, but often becomes a prison. His eyes meet yours, deep and steady. Guilt, he says, and its close companion, self-hatred. The word seems to thicken the air for a moment. You might feel your chest react, remembering your own ghosts, the things you did, the things you didn't do, the words you said, the words you never managed to say. The monk sees that tiny change in your face and does not look away. Buddha never denied the importance of responsibility, he continues. He did not say, do whatever you like. But he also did not ask people to beat themselves forever for what they had done in ignorance. He drew a line between honest remorse and endless self-punishment. He folds his hands lightly in his lap. Tonight, he says, I will tell you about someone who carried guilt like a stone in his chest, so long he almost forgot what it felt like to breathe without it. He closes his eyes briefly, then begins. There was once a man, he says, who came to the Buddha with downcast eyes and trembling hands. He had not come earlier, although he had wanted to many times. He stayed away, watching from the edges when the Buddha spoke in towns, listening from a distance, never stepping forward. His teachings are for better people than me, he thought, for those whose hands are clean. I have done harm. I have broken trust. I am not worthy to sit near him. So he listened from shadows year after year while his guilt grew heavier. One day, when the weight was too much, he finally walked into the open and approached. The monks made space for him. Some recognized his face from stories they had heard, tales of a man who had cheated, lied, even stolen in his younger days, a man who had caused real pain to others. He felt their eyes on him, curious, suspicious. His shoulders curled inward. When he reached the Buddha, he fell to his knees. Blessed One, he said, his voice rough, I do not come asking for comfort. I come asking for a sentence. I have done terrible things. I have betrayed friends, exploited strangers, lied to those who trusted me. I have tried to live differently since I heard your teachings, but the past does not change. Every night, my mind plays the same scenes again. The faces of those I hurt stand at the edge of my sleep. My guilt gnaws at me. It says, I do not deserve peace. It says that if I were truly sorry, I would suffer forever. So tell me, how long must I punish myself? What must I do to pay for what I have done? He bowed his head, expecting harsh words. But the Buddha did not raise his voice. He did not call him wicked. He did not send him away. The old monk's own voice is almost a whisper. Instead, he says, the Buddha asked him a question. If punishment alone could heal the past, would your heart not already be whole? The man looked up, confused. You have been punishing yourself for many years, the Buddha said. Has it brought back what was lost? Has it undone what you did? Has it made the hearts you hurt whole again? The man shook his head, tears in his eyes. No, he admitted, it has only made me smaller and more afraid. The Buddha nodded slowly. Then perhaps, he said, you have mistaken pain for payment. The hall is so quiet that you can hear your own breath brushing the inside of your throat. The monk watches you, letting those words settle. This, he says softly, is where many people live, believing that if they suffer enough inside, if they hate themselves enough, if they carry enough guilt, something will be fixed. But guilt by itself does not heal. It only freezes you in the moment of your worst mistake and keeps you living there again and again. He returns to the story. The Buddha continued, tell me, when you were harming others in the past, were you awake or asleep? The man frowned. I was not sleeping, he said. I knew what I was doing. You knew the actions, the Buddha said, but did you see clearly all their consequences? Did you understand the pain you were sowing? Did you see the confusion and fear in your own mind that pushed you to act that way? The man thought of his past self, younger, driven by desperation, by anger, by a hunger to feel powerful in a life where he had felt powerless for so long. No, he said slowly, I did not see all that then. The Buddha nodded. Ignorance, he said, does not excuse harm, but understanding it can help you stop planting the same seeds. Guilt says, I am bad. I must suffer forever. Wisdom says, I have done harm. Let me see clearly why. Let me feel the pain I caused, and let me use that understanding to live differently. The man listened, hardly breathing. Can I ever be clean again? He whispered. The Buddha's gaze was very steady. The past actions remain in the past, he said. They cannot be erased. But you are not those actions frozen in time. You are the being who stands here now, able to see, to feel, to choose. Karma is not a prison built once and for all. It is a field. What you planted before is growing. What you plant now will also grow. You cannot go back and unplant the weeds, but you can decide what you will plant today. The old monk looks at you as if asking silently, what are you planting with the way you speak to yourself right now? In your own life, he says quietly, you may have memories that feel like stains. Times you hurt someone you loved. Times you ran away instead of staying. Times you lied or remained silent when you should have spoken. Your guilt may tell you this. Because I did that, I am forever that person. I am not allowed peace. My punishment is to keep replaying it, to keep attacking myself, to keep believing that I am nothing but my worst moment. But Buddha's wisdom is different. He separates the person from the patterns, the heart from the habits. He says, yes, you did this. Do not pretend otherwise. Feel the pain it caused. Let your heart break open. Then let that brokenness become a vow, not to destroy yourself, but to live in a way that brings more healing than harm from this day forward. The monk's voice is slow, almost like the rhythm of your own heartbeat. This is called wise remorse, he says. It is very different from toxic guilt. Wise remorse says, I see what I did. I wish I had done better. I will use this pain to grow tenderness and responsibility. Toxic guilt says, because I did this, I am trash. I deserve to suffer forever. He looks at you steadily. Which voice have you been listening to? He asks quietly. He doesn't wait for an answer. The answer is already in your chest. The Buddha gave the man 3 steps, the monk continues. Again, simple. Again, difficult. He lifts his hand and counts on his fingers. First, see clearly. You will not run away from what you did, the Buddha said. You will not hide behind excuses. You will sit, even if it hurts, and look at the truth of your actions. What did you do? What words did you say? What promises did you break? You will name them honestly, not to bathe in shame, but to stop lying to yourself. Without clear seeing, there can be no freedom. He raises a second finger. Second, feel and admit the pain. You will allow your heart to feel sorrow, the Buddha said, not only for yourself, but for those you harmed. If you can, you will apologize where it is wise and possible. If you cannot, you will still say in your heart, I see your pain. I am sorry for the harm I caused. You will let the pain soften you instead of hardening you. This is how guilt begins to turn into compassion. A third finger lifts. Third, choose a different seed. Each day, the Buddha told him, you will do at least one act that moves in the opposite direction from your past harm. If you once stole, you will give. If you once lied, you will speak truth. If you once abandoned, you will show up, not to erase the past, but to honor the lesson it gave you at such a high cost. You will not say, nothing I do matters because of what I did before. You will say, because of what I did before, I will not waste this new chance. The hall is very quiet. You might feel a familiar heaviness in your chest as you remember things you still judge yourself for. You might also feel, just barely, a new softness around that heaviness, like warm hands around a cold stone. The man listened, the monk says. His tears fell, not from self-hatred, but from the relief of being seen fully, his darkness and his possibility. But what about my punishment? He asked. The Buddha answered, your punishment is already here. You have lived for years with a heart at war with itself. The path I offer is not to escape consequences, but to stop adding new wounds to the old ones. If you choose to walk this path of seeing clearly, feeling fully, and planting different seeds, then your past becomes not a chain, but a teacher. The greatest apology you can offer to those you harmed is to become someone who does not repeat that harm. The old monk looks at you with deep gentleness. This, he says, is the middle way with guilt. Not pretending you did no harm, not condemning yourself to eternal self-hatred, but standing in the middle and saying, yes, I hurt others. Yes, I hurt myself. I will not lie about that. And also, yes, I am still alive. I can still choose. I can still become more honest, more kind, more careful. He lets that hang in the air like a bell tone that's still vibrating. Many people, he continues quietly, refuse to forgive themselves because They think self-forgiveness means saying, it didn't matter, it wasn't so bad. They think it means pretending the wound was small. Buddha's way is the opposite. He invites you to see just how deep the wound was, to fully honor the pain you caused, and then to ask, will I let this wound freeze me forever at this point in my story? Or will I let it be the place where my heart finally wakes up? He leans forward slightly, his eyes kind. If the higher power you believe in, he says, could speak plainly to you right now, it would not say, I love the version of you that never made a mistake, but I despise this one. It would say, I have seen every mistake, every failure, every harm. I have also seen every moment of regret, every wish to do better, every small act of goodness no one else noticed. I do not erase your responsibility, but I also do not throw you away. Stand up, learn, walk differently. He lets a soft silence bloom around those words. In your bed, in your life, the monk continues, you may carry certain memories like a secret trial where you are both the judge and the prisoner. Every night, you replay the evidence. Every night, you find yourself guilty. Every night, you return to your cell of shame. The middle way invites you to become something else. Not judge, not prisoner, but witness. To say, yes, this happened. Yes, I did this. It was not who I want to be. It hurt others. It hurts me to remember. From this pain, I will learn tenderness. From this guilt, I will learn responsibility. From this regret, I will learn to protect others from the harm I once caused. His voice slows even more, timed with your breath, as if he is tucking the words into your chest one by one. For tonight, he says, I will not ask you to dig up every old memory. That would be too much for a heart already tired. Instead, choose just one moment you still punish yourself for. One scene that returns when the room is dark. Something you said or did or failed to do. As you remember it, notice what your body does. Does your stomach twist? Does your throat close? Do your thoughts start to shout, how could you? You are terrible. You don't deserve peace. Place a hand gently on your chest if you can, and instead of joining the shouting, say very quietly inside, I see what I did. I am sorry. I cannot change the past, but I will not keep stabbing this wound. I will honor it by living differently from now on. The monk's eyes are soft as night. This is not a magic spell, he says. You will not instantly feel pure. You may not even believe your own words at first, but every time you choose wise remorse over self-hatred, you step one pace further onto the path the Buddha walked, a path where your past is part of your story, but not the jailer of your future. He looks toward the doorway of the hall, where the darkness now has a faint hint of morning gray. Soon, he says, this night will end. You will open your eyes in your own room, and your old thoughts may return like birds trying to land on familiar branches. But something in you will be different. You will have heard a new voice, a voice that says, I am not only my worst moment, I am also the one who can choose the next step. He lowers his head slightly as if in blessing. For now, he whispers, let this be your practice as you fall asleep. When guilt begins to speak, listen. Let it show you what needs to be seen. Then tell it gently, thank you for reminding me who I don't want to be. Now let me rest, so tomorrow I can live more like the one I truly am. He recites a final soft verse for this watch of the night. I cannot change the road behind, but I can walk with different mind. Guilt will not be my only name. From what I did, new love can flame. The lamp between you is barely more than a glow now. Your breath is slow and heavy. Your muscles are loose. Your thoughts drift like clouds. You are not being asked to forget. You are being invited to stop attacking yourself in the name of goodness and to let your regret become a doorway to a softer, wiser heart. As sleep draws nearer, one last awareness rests gently inside you. There is a way to live where you remember what you did, take responsibility, and still let yourself be guided, not by hatred, but by the same quiet light that once turned a man full of mistakes into a person capable of deep compassion. That light is not far away. It is already here, breathing with you in the dark. By the time the next story begins to unfold, the night around the monastery feels thick and deep, like warm velvet wrapped around the wooden hall, but inside you there is already a faint sense that something has become a little wider, a little more spacious, as if the walls of your chest have quietly moved apart by a few invisible centimeters, and there is now just enough room for your breath to move without bumping into sharp corners at every turn. The old monk sits where he has been all along, across from you, his robe falling in soft, simple folds around his legs, the almost burned-out lamp between you, throwing a low golden glow across his face and catching in the fine lines near his eyes in a way that makes them look less like wrinkles and more like rivers that have learned the landscape of his life by flowing through it again and again without becoming bitter at the stones that stood in their way. For a while, he simply looks at you in silence, not demanding answers, not demanding improvement, just really seeing you the way a person looks at the sky. They have been watching all night, noticing how it has changed in tiny ways that no one else would catch. And then, without changing his gentle tone, he speaks, his words gathering into long, slow sentences that move like a calm river rather than breaking into little pieces. You have seen, he says quietly, how the mind tries to punish itself for the past and how it tries to protect itself with anger. And you have begun, just a little, to learn a different way of standing inside your own story. But there is still one more place where many people lose the middle way without even realizing it. One more corner of the heart that the Buddha looked at with great care. The way we cling not only to what we did, but to what we think we should have received from others, and to the person we wanted them to be. His gaze softens even more, if that is possible. There is a grief, he continues, that does not come from death, but from disappointment, from betrayal, from the discovery that someone you trusted could not love you in the way you needed. And this grief is often heavier than the others because it does not have a clear funeral. It just lives, half alive, in the back of the mind, whispering, "They should have treated me differently. I deserved more. I will never forgive them." He lets that sentence stretch out and settle in the space between you, and maybe in that space, somewhere in your own chest, faces begin to appear. A parent who did not protect you, a friend who walked away, a partner who did not understand you, a boss who used you, people who should have known better and didn't, people who should have seen your heart and never really looked. The Buddha, the monk says gently, met many people whose bodies were healthy, but whose hearts were still chained to old scenes, old voices, old names, as if they carried an invisible scroll of grievances rolled up inside them. And every night before sleep, they unrolled it and read it again, stabbing themselves with each word, then wondering why they could not rest. He sighs softly and his next words come like a story that has been told many times, not to entertain, but to free. There was once a woman, he begins, who came to the Buddha with eyes that looked both angry and tired, like someone who had been staring at the same wound for so long that they no longer knew whether they wanted it healed or only wanted everyone to see how deep it was. She sat before him and did not bow. She folded her arms across her chest like armor. "Teacher," she said, "I hear you talk of compassion and forgiveness, but I am not sure they are meant for me. There is someone in my life I cannot forgive. I have tried. People tell me I should let go, that anger is poison, that I should be kind. But when I remember what he did, my heart burns. If I forgive him, it feels like I am saying what he did was acceptable, and it was not. So what do I do? Live as a fake saint or as an honest enemy?" The Buddha did not rush to answer. He looked at her as if he were reading, line by line, the story of her life written in the way she held her shoulders, in the way her mouth tightened around certain words, in the way her breathing changed when she said what he did. "Who is this person?" he asked at last. "My father," she said, and the words came out hard, like stones dropping onto the floor between them. "He was not a monster, not in the way people think. He worked, he provided, he was respected. But in our house, his words were knives. He never hit me, but he cut me with his tongue. He told me I was weak, foolish, ungrateful. When I cried, he called me dramatic. When I succeeded, he said it was not enough. I have spent my whole life trying to prove him wrong. I am exhausted. Now he is old. People say I should forgive him before he dies. They say I should visit, smile, pretend it was not so bad. I do not know how to forgive without lying, and I do not know how to keep hating him without burning myself alive. Where is your middle way in this?" She looked at the Buddha as if daring him to say something simple, something easy, something that would not touch the real depth of her story. He did not. The monk folds his hands and his voice slows, dissolving the distance between that ancient scene and your own life. "The Buddha said," he continues, "forgiveness is not the same as saying it did not matter. It is not the same as inviting someone to hurt you again. It is not a performance you do for others. It is a way of putting down a burning coal you have been holding in your own hand." The woman frowned. "People say that," she said, "but when I try to put it down, my mind picks it up again. It says, if you stop being angry, you will forget. If you forgive, you will betray the child you were." The Buddha's eyes were very gentle. "Then we must talk not only about your father," he said, "but about the child inside you who has not yet heard that she is safe." He invited her to sit more comfortably and asked her to close her eyes. "See her," he said softly, "the younger you, standing in that house, hearing those words. See her shoulders, her face, her eyes. See how hard she tries to be good enough. See how alone she feels when no one defends her." The woman began to cry, quietly at first, then with deeper sobs she tried to hide. "Now," the Buddha said, "see yourself as you are today, sitting here older with more understanding. You cannot go back and be the mother she needed then, but you can be the one who stands between her and the voice that still calls her weak and foolish. You think your anger is protecting her, but it is only keeping her in the same room, listening to the same old words. Forgiveness for you will not begin with your father. It will begin with telling that child, I see what you suffered. You were not weak. You were doing your best. You did not deserve those words." The woman's face relaxed and tightened again, as if two forces were pulling at her at once. "What about him?" she asked, her voice hoarse. "What about my father?" The Buddha did not say, "You must love him." He did not say, "You must visit him and pretend nothing happened." He spoke slowly, as if placing each word where it could do the least harm and the most good. "If you want to walk the middle way with this man," he said, "you do not have to deny what he did, and you do not have to keep drinking the poison of your hatred. You can say, 'What you did was harmful. I will not say it was all right. I will not minimize the pain. But I will also not let your ignorance control the rest of my life.' Forgiveness in the middle way is not a feeling you force. It is a decision not to let your whole identity be built around the wound." The monk looks at you, and you might feel in that look all the people you still hold inside your chest, all the unfinished conversations, all the apologies you never got, all the explanations that never came. "In your own life," he says quietly, "there may be people you cannot forgive yet, or maybe you tell yourself you have forgiven them while your body still tenses and your jaw still locks whenever their name appears in your mind, and then you judge yourself for not being spiritual enough to let it go." He shakes his head gently. "Buddha would not ask you to pretend," he says. "He would ask you to be honest about where you are. Here, there is still pain. Here, there is still anger. Here, I still hold a burning coal and cannot put it down yet." He would meet you there, not where you think you should be. He returns to the story of the woman, but now his voice flows like one long stream rather than breaking into small waves. The Buddha told her that there were 3 movements in forgiveness, and they did not have to happen all at once, nor did they have to be perfect to be real. First, turning toward the child in her who had been wounded and letting that younger self be seen instead of silenced. Second, looking clearly at the father, not as a giant shadow, but as a human being with his own ignorance and fear, neither excused nor turned into a monster of pure darkness. Third, loosening the grip of the old story that said her entire worth was decided by his words, loosening it not by forcing herself to love him, but by slowly building a life in which his voice was not the only voice she could hear. The monk's eyes soften. "Forgiveness on the middle way," he says, "is less about what you feel toward the one who hurt you and more about how tightly you keep tying your life to that moment. It asks, again and again, do I want this wound to be the center of my story forever? He watches you gently, as if giving you time to taste that question from the inside. Sometimes, he goes on, the most compassionate act toward yourself is not to rush into forgiveness. Sometimes the first step is simply to stop attacking yourself for not being ready. To say, yes, I still hurt. Of course I do. Anyone with a heart would. From there, you can begin to look more quietly at the person who hurt you, not to excuse them, but to see them as someone also ruled by fear and ignorance, and from that seeing, something softer may one day grow. Not necessarily reconciliation, not necessarily closeness, but a slow release of the idea that your entire value is written in what they did. He takes a slow breath, and his next sentences come long and smooth, like a soft ribbon laid across still water. If the Buddha sat on the edge of your bed tonight and listened to you describe the ones you cannot forgive, he says, he would not rush you. He would not demand that you love them or pretend the past was gentle when it was not. But he would ask you to notice how much of your daily energy is spent replaying their actions, rewriting arguments in your mind, preparing speeches you will never give, and he would gently invite you to consider whether you really want to keep giving them so much space in the home of your heart. He pauses and then adds, with a hint of something like a smile in his voice, though it is a sad and tender one. Forgiveness in the middle way does not mean saying, it's fine. It means saying, it happened, it hurt, it shaped me. But I will not let it define every step I take from here. I will no longer carry this person on my back as a living statue. I will let them become what they truly are now, part of my past, not the master of my present. The hall around you feels wider somehow, as if the simple wooden walls had moved outward to make room for all the names, faces, and scenes you're holding. Your body, in your real bed, may feel heavier as old memories rise, but the monk's voice is steady, like a hand on your shoulder, reminding you that you are not fallen, you are simply remembering. For tonight, he says softly, you are not asked to forgive everyone. That is too big a task for a tired heart. Choose one person, one situation that still stings. You do not have to pick the worst one, just one that your mind returns to often. See, without looking away, what happened between you. See the younger self you were then, trying to survive with the tools you had. See the other person as someone who, in their own way, was also ruled by fear, ignorance, or pain, even if you cannot understand their choices. Then, without forcing any particular feeling, simply say inwardly, I am tired of letting this moment hold all of my power. For now, I do not know how to forgive fully, but I am willing to stop feeding the fire a little bit. I am willing to let my life mean more than this. His eyes do not leave your face as he continues in that same slow, flowing rhythm. If you ever fear that forgiving someone means betraying your younger self, he murmurs, remember that the truest loyalty you can show that younger self is not to keep her locked in the room where the wound happened, but to take her by the hand and walk with her into a life where she is treated with the tenderness she never received then. That tenderness must begin with you. He breathes out, long and quiet, and his last words of this part of the night form one long, gentle sentence that seems to wrap itself around your breath like a blanket. So, as you lie here in this hall and in your own bed, let your heart know that it does not have to choose between lying and burning, between pretending it was never hurt and drowning forever in what happened. Tell it in whatever simple words you can find that there is a way in the middle, a way where you remember clearly, feel deeply, protect wisely, and slowly in its own time. Begin to live a life that is not constantly pulled backward by old hands, but is guided forward by the quiet, patient light of the same wisdom that once taught a woman to put down the coal she had been gripping for years and finally breathe with open, empty hands. Your eyes are heavier now, your breathing slower, and the monk's presence feels less like a separate figure and more like a calm, steady part of the night itself, watching over you as the stories do their work deep inside the garden of your heart, where old wounds and new possibilities are slowly learning how to grow side by side without choking each other. By now, the air in the hall feels almost like sleep itself has taken a shape and is sitting quietly beside you, patient and kind, not demanding that you drift off right this second, just waiting for you to be ready. While inside your chest, there is this strange mixture of tiredness and clarity, as if you have been walking all night through a soft darkness and only now realize that your feet have been carrying you toward something the whole time. The old monk is still there, exactly where he has been, and yet you see him a little differently now, not as a mysterious figure from another world, but as something closer to a mirror, a future version of you who has lived through the same storms and simply had more time to let them teach him instead of break him. The tiny flame of the lamp in front of you is almost completely burnt down. It glows more than shines, a small living ember that refuses to go out until it has finished what it came to do. For a while the monk says nothing, and the silence between you is not empty at all. It is full of everything you have already heard. The story of the lute string and the balance between too tight and too loose. The soldier who learned to sit with his fear instead of wearing it like armor. The merchant who began to open his hand. The man whose guilt turned from a sentence into a teacher. The woman who learned that forgiveness was not a lie, but a way of putting down a burning coal, and all the ways your own heart has secretly recognized itself in each of them. When he finally speaks, his voice is softer than before, but the sentences are long and unhurried, flowing out of him like a river that knows exactly where it is going without needing to rush. There is something very important, he says, that people often misunderstand about the Buddha's path. They think it is about escaping life, about sitting alone under trees and trying to disappear, as if the goal of wisdom were to become a ghost, watching the world from far away, untouched by anything. But the middle way is not a path of disappearing. It is a path of being fully here without being constantly torn apart. He looks at you calmly, and you feel that he is speaking not to some abstract student, but directly to the person who lies in your bed at night, scrolling on a phone, staring at a ceiling, wondering if you are wasting your existence, or if there is still something meaningful you are supposed to be doing. The Buddha did not stay in the forest forever. The monk continues, his eyes drifting for a moment, as if he is seeing scenes far away in time and space. After his awakening under the tree, he could have chosen silence. He could have remained alone, watching the rise and fall of his own breath, at peace with everything and involved with nothing. But he did not. He walked back into the world, into the dust and noise and confusion, into the villages and cities where people argued about money, worried about their families, envied their neighbors, feared the future, and he taught there, among them, not above them. His gaze returns to you with a quiet intensity. That is the peace many forget, he says. Wisdom did not pull him away from human hearts. It pushed him closer. For a moment, you feel that sentence knock softly on a door inside you, the door that leads to the part of you that sometimes fantasizes about running away from everything. Work, family, responsibilities, noise, and living on some quiet mountain where no one can bother you, where you imagine you would finally be peaceful because there would be no one left to trigger your anger or stir up your pain. The mind loves those fantasies, the monk says gently, as if he knows exactly what you were thinking. It shows you pictures of disappearing, of a perfect place where nothing is messy and no one is difficult, and it whispers, if I could just get there, then I would be calm. But the Buddha understood that the real noise is not outside, it is inside, and wherever you go, you carry that with you, like a bell that keeps ringing in your chest. He leans back a little, his hands resting lightly on his knees. So, the middle way is not about building a perfect monastery where the world cannot reach you, he goes on. It is about learning how to move through your actual life, your work, your relationships, your tired mornings, your late-night doubts, with a heart that is a little more spacious, a little less easily pulled to the edges. He lets a small smile touch his face, the kind that appears when someone is about to tell a story they love. There was once, he begins, a woman who believed that spiritual life and ordinary life were enemies. During the day, she worked in a noisy marketplace, selling vegetables at a stall her family had passed down for 3 generations. She bargained, counted coins, shouted over the crowd, dealt with rude customers, soothed crying children, carried heavy baskets. At night, she went home exhausted, her clothes smelling of dust and smoke and onions, her head full of voices and numbers. She loved the idea of peace, but it always felt far away. Sometimes, late at night, she would pass by a monastery at the edge of the city and see the faint light of lamps and hear the soft echo of chanting, and something in her would ache. They are so lucky, she thought. They have silence. They have time to meditate. They can walk slowly, breathe, listen to teachings. My life is too busy, too loud, too small. How can I ever find Buddha's wisdom while I am arguing over the price of cabbage? One day, she heard that the Buddha himself was visiting a nearby village. On an impulse, she closed her stall early and walked there, her feet sore from standing all morning, her mind still buzzing with the noise of the market. When she found him, he was not sitting under a grand tree surrounded by a perfect halo. He was sitting under an ordinary tree on ordinary ground, speaking to a circle of very ordinary people, farmers with mud on their feet, mothers with babies on their hips, old men who smelled of sweat and smoke. She almost turned back. He has more important things to do than talk to someone like me, she thought. I am not a monk, not a scholar. I am just busy. But something urged her forward, and she sat at the edge of the group, hoping to disappear into the crowd. The monk's voice becomes smoother, a single long line of sound. The Buddha spoke that day about walking, not to monks, but to people who spent their lives moving from one task to another, he says. He said, each step you take is a meeting between your body and the earth. Each breath you draw is a meeting between your life and the life around you. You say you do not have time to practice, but you are always walking, always breathing. The question is not whether you practice. The question is, what do you practice with each step, each breath? The woman felt those words enter her like cool water. At the end of the talk, she found the courage to approach. Blessed One, she said, her voice hesitant, I want peace, but my life is full of noise. I do not live in a forest or a monastery. I live in a market. People shout, children cry, money is tight. I cannot sit for long meditations. Does that mean Buddha's path is not for someone like me? The Buddha looked at her with the same calm he had offered emperors and beggars alike. Tell me, he said, how many steps do you take each day? She laughed nervously. Too many to count, she said. From the house to the market, from the market to the well, back and forth between customers, carrying baskets, fetching water. And how many breaths do you take? He asked. She shook her head. I do not know. Thousands. The Buddha nodded. Then your life is full of the very things that can become your path, he said, steps and breaths. You say you have no time to practice. I say your whole day is made of opportunities. The old monk looks at you, making sure that line reaches into the part of you that thinks spiritual life only happens on cushions and retreats and quiet weekends that never come. The Buddha did not tell her to abandon her stall, he continues. He did not tell her to become a nun and leave her family. He gave her something very simple and very precise, because he knew that simple things are the only ones that fit into busy lives. He told her, when you walk to the market each morning, do not let your mind run ahead into all the things that might go wrong. Walk with your feet, one step at a time, feeling the ground. Let each step be a gentle reminder, I am here. This is meditation. When you hand a vegetable to a customer, do not treat it as a dead, meaningless object. For one breath, see that it was grown in soil, fed by rain and sun, carried by many hands before yours, and that you are now part of the chain that feeds another living being. Let your heart whisper, may this bring you strength. This is compassion. When the market is loud and people are difficult, notice how your body tenses, how your anger rises. Instead of pretending it is not there or exploding, give yourself one breath where you simply feel it without acting. One breath in the middle of the storm. This is the middle way. You do not need a monastery to practice. You need only your own life and a willingness to be present in it. The hall seems to lean in around you, as if the wooden walls themselves are listening. The woman tried, the monk says. The next morning, as she walked to the market, her mind still wandered. It thought about prices, about debts, about what her children needed, about what her neighbors said. But step by step, she practiced bringing her attention back to her feet, touching the ground. Here, she thought with one step. Here, with the next. Not as a command, but as a soft reminder. At first it felt strange, too simple, almost foolish. But over days and weeks, something shifted. The road to the market stopped being only the path to her labor and became a quiet corridor of waking up. In the market, when a customer shouted or tried to cheat her, she still felt anger rise like a flame. Her heart still pounded, but sometimes, just sometimes, she remembered the Buddha's words and took one extra breath before speaking, feeling the fire without letting it spill over. Some days, she failed completely and drove home full of frustration, blaming herself for forgetting. But gradually, like water wearing away stone, the practice did its work. The market did not change. Her responsibilities did not shrink, but her relationship to them did. She found that even in the middle of chaos, there were small spaces where her breath could be soft, where her attention could return to the present moment, where her heart could quietly wish well for the strangers who passed her stall. Years later, people said of her, "When I go to her stall, I feel calm, even if the market is crazy." They did not know she had turned her stall into a tiny, moving monastery, not by escaping the world, but by walking the middle way inside it. The monk's eyes are bright and quiet as he looks at you. "You may think," he says slowly, "that your life is not the right shape for peace. There is too much noise, too many demands, too many screens, too many people who need something from you. You may tell yourself, when I finally have the perfect conditions, then I will be kind to myself, then I will listen inwardly, then I will practice." But the Buddha's wisdom is not waiting for a different life. It is knocking on the door of this one. His voice continues in a smooth, unbroken flow. If he sat beside you in whatever place you spend your days, in an office, in a car, in a crowded house, in a small room, he would not start by asking you to go anywhere else. He would ask you to notice how many breaths you take without feeling them, how many steps you walk without arriving in them, how many times you move your hands, speak words, look at faces without actually being present. He would say, with no judgment and no drama, here's your path right here, in this breath, in this step, with this person. He lets your own breath fill the space for a moment, slow and heavy. You do not have to turn your life into a monastery, he says. You do not have to become a different person overnight. You can simply begin to include your life in your practice instead of imagining that practice is somewhere else. He pauses, then his next sentence stretches long and gentle, wrapping itself around the edges of your attention. So, as you drift closer to sleep, you might quietly choose one small piece of your tomorrow, walking to the bus stop, washing dishes, waiting in a line, taking a shower, and decide that this will be your monastery for that moment, that in that ordinary action you will notice your breath, soften your shoulders, and whisper inwardly, I am here, I am alive, I am walking the middle, not too tight, not too loose. And in this way, without drama, without grand vows, you will be doing exactly what the Buddha hoped for when he stepped out of the forest and went back into the villages of dust and noise and human hearts. The old monk's voice is now almost indistinguishable from the quiet itself, flowing in long, soothing sentences. Your life does not need to be cleaner or simpler or more perfect before you can touch wisdom, he says. It only needs your presence, even tired, even scared, even full of doubts. The middle way is not a special road for saints. It is the way an ordinary person walks when they decide, just for this breath, just for this step, to stop abandoning themselves. He looks at you one last time in this part of the night, and there is something like pride in his eyes, not the pride of achievement, but the gentle pride of seeing someone stay with a difficult journey longer than they thought they could. You are still here, he says softly, and that is already a form of courage. Your body is heavy. Your eyelids are thick. Somewhere beyond this hall, your real room waits with its own darkness and its own air. And between the two spaces, your breath goes on moving, quietly stitching them together. You do not need to remember all the stories. You do not need to memorize all the teachings. If, tomorrow, in one ordinary moment, a walk, a task, a conversation, you remember even a little of this, and you pause, and you choose one softer breath instead of a rushed one honest word instead of a disguised one small act of kindness toward yourself or another instead of one more act of self-abandonment, then the middle way will already be alive in you. For now, it is enough to feel the weight of your body, the slow rhythm of your lungs, and the quiet presence beside you that feels a little like the Buddha, a little like the old monk, and a little like the deepest, most patient part of your own heart, keeping watch as you finally begin to slide down into sleep. Now the night feels as if it has reached its deepest point, that secret hour when the world outside is quiet enough that you could almost believe nothing has ever been broken. And in that deep quiet, the hall of stories becomes less like a room and more like a shelter inside your own chest, a place where the mind finally stops rehearsing arguments and begins, for a moment, to listen. The old monk sits across from you, and the lamp between you is barely a living flame now, more ember than fire, but the light it gives is strangely intimate, as though it exists only to keep you from feeling alone in the dark. His face is soft in that glow, and his eyes hold the kind of calm that does not come from avoiding life, but from meeting life so many times that it no longer needs to fight it to feel safe. When he begins to speak, his voice is smooth and patient, and he does not throw words at you like instructions. He lays them down like warm cloth. You have heard, he says, about the middle way in effort, in fear and desire, in anger and compassion, in guilt and forgiveness, and in the simple truth that practice does not live only in monasteries, but inside ordinary steps and breaths. Now there is one final knot many hearts carry, and it is a knot so quiet that people often mistake it for reality itself, even though it is only a habit of the mind. He pauses, and you feel the weight of what he is about to say before he even says it. It is the hunger to be someone, he continues, the constant pressure to build an identity strong enough to protect you, impressive enough to be admired, correct enough to be safe, and the constant fear that if that identity collapses, you will collapse with it. This is one of the deepest extremes because it can disguise itself as ambition, as responsibility, as spirituality, as goodness, and yet underneath it is often a simple trembling. If I am not special, if I am not right, if I am not seen, do I exist? The sentence lands quietly inside you, and perhaps you notice how often your mind measures you against others, against your own expectations, against the imaginary person you think you should be by now, and how exhausting it is to carry that measuring stick everywhere, even into bed, even into the hours meant for rest. There was once a young seeker, the monk says, who came to the Buddha with bright eyes and a restless smile, and if you looked at him from the outside, you might think he was full of hope. But if you listened closely, you could hear a subtle desperation in his questions, because he was not only seeking truth, he was seeking a way to become someone who could never be heard again. The monk's voice continues in long, unbroken sentences that move like slow water. This young man had heard stories about awakening, about enlightenment, about peace beyond suffering, and he wanted it, not only because he loved wisdom, but because he was tired of feeling small. He had grown up in a family that praised achievement, and the love he received always felt conditional, as if it arrived only when he performed well and disappeared the moment he failed, and so he learned to build himself like a tower, higher, stronger, more impressive, hoping that if he could become extraordinary, no one would ever again be able to look down on him or leave him. He came to the Buddha and bowed politely, but even in his bow, there was a tension, a hidden need. "Blessed One," he said, "I have practiced many things. I have studied teachings, fasted, kept rules, sat in meditation for long hours, and I believe I am close to something, but I still feel restless, still hungry, still afraid that I am not enough. Tell me, what must I do to become enlightened quickly so I can finally be free?" The Buddha looked at him quietly, not as a judge, not as an idol, but as a human being who had once also searched through extremes. "Why do you want enlightenment?" the Buddha asked. The young man blinked as if the question surprised him, because he assumed the answer was obvious, and he said, "So I can be beyond suffering, so I can be pure, so I can be above all this confusion, so I can be someone who cannot be shaken." The Buddha's gaze was gentle, but it did not move away. "So," the Buddha said softly, "you want enlightenment the way a frightened person wants armor." The young man's face tightened, And he said, "Is that wrong?" The Buddha did not scold him. He simply asked another question that went deeper, the way a teacher touches a bruise not to hurt you, but to show you where the pain lives. "If you became enlightened tomorrow," the Buddha asked, "who would be proud?" The young man opened his mouth, then closed it again, because the answer was suddenly obvious in a way that was almost embarrassing. "Myself," he admitted. "And who," the Buddha continued, "would be ashamed if it took longer, if you did not become special, if you remained ordinary?" Again, the answer came quickly, like a truth that had been hiding under many layers. "Myself," he said again, but this time the word sounded smaller. The Buddha nodded. "Then you are still living inside the same prison," he said. "Only you have painted the prison walls with spiritual words. You are trying to escape suffering by becoming a perfect identity. But the need to become perfect is itself suffering, because it keeps you tight, keeps you afraid, keeps you always chasing a future version of yourself that you believe is finally worthy." The young man's eyes filled with tears, not dramatic tears, but quiet ones that come when you finally realize you have been running in circles. "But what am I supposed to do then?" he whispered. "If I do not become someone, what is left?" The Buddha's face softened, and his voice became even simpler. "What is left," he said, "is the truth that you already exist without performing. You already breathe without earning it. You already feel without needing permission. You already have a mind that can awaken, not as a trophy you win, but as a natural clarity that appears when you stop gripping yourself so tightly." The monk lets the story breathe for a moment, and you feel the quiet weight of those sentences, because they touch something very tender. The possibility that you could rest without proving, that you could be loved without performing, that you could exist without building an identity like a fortress. The Buddha then offered him a practice, the monk continues, and it was not a practice of achievement. It was a practice of release, because the middle way here is not between two outer behaviors, but between two inner extremes. The extreme of inflating yourself to be safe and the extreme of hating yourself for being human. The practice, the monk says, was this. The Buddha told the young man to sit each day and watch what arose in his mind, not only thoughts, but the invisible sentences that build a self like a story, and to notice how often those sentences use the words I, me, mine, and how often they carry tension. I must become, I must be seen, I must be right, I must be good, I must be special. And then, instead of fighting those sentences or believing them, to treat them like clouds, to let them pass, to feel the body soften as the mind releases its grip on the need to be someone. The young man tried, and at first it was painful, because he realized how much of his life had been built on striving, on comparing, on the invisible fear that without constant effort he would disappear. His mind protested loudly, saying, "If you stop, you will become nothing." And the Buddha asked him to look closely at that fear, to feel it in the chest, to breathe with it, and to discover little by little that when the mind stops gripping, you do not become nothing. You become present. The monk's eyes meet yours again, and his voice turns inward as if he is speaking straight into the part of you that lies awake at night thinking, am I doing enough? Am I becoming enough? Am I wasting my life? What will people think? What will happen if I fail? Do you see, he says softly, how the desire to become special is just another version of craving, and how the fear of being ordinary is just another version of aversion, and how both pull you away from the middle way, because they make your present moment feel like a waiting room, as if your real life has not begun yet. He pauses, letting your breath answer for you, and then continues in a long, gentle flow. The middle way here is the courage to be ordinary without collapsing into despair, and the courage to grow without turning growth into a weapon against yourself. It is the ability to say, yes, I will practice, I will learn, I will improve where it is wise, but I will not make my worth conditional on my progress, and I will not treat my life like an endless audition. The monk's voice becomes softer, as if the hall itself is growing sleepy. If you carry this teaching into your bed tonight, he says, it can become very simple. When your mind starts measuring you, comparing you, pushing you to prove something even at midnight, you can notice that measuring and say quietly, this is the old hunger to be someone, and I do not have to feed it right now. And then you can return to the one thing that does not require performance, the feeling of your breath entering and leaving your body, the gentle rise of your chest, the warmth under your blanket, the simple fact that you are here. He looks toward the doorway, where the darkness has softened into the faintest gray blue, and he speaks as if he is offering you a final thread to carry into sleep. The Buddha did not awaken in order to become impressive, he says. He awakened because he stopped clinging, and when clinging fell away, compassion rose naturally, like a clear moon appearing when clouds move aside. So, if you want to walk the middle way, do not treat wisdom like a trophy you must win. Treat it like a home you return to again and again, by loosening your grip on the idea that your value is something you must earn. The monk's voice settles into one last long sentence that feels like a blanket being pulled gently up to your shoulders. So, as you close your eyes, let your heart know that you are allowed to rest even if you are not finished, that you are allowed to be loved even if you are not perfect, that you are allowed to breathe without proving anything, and that in this simple permission, in this quiet release, the middle way is already alive in you, not as a distant achievement, but as the soft, steady truth that you exist. You belong to life, and you can meet tomorrow with a calmer, kinder mind, because you did not spend the night fighting to become someone you were never required to be in order to deserve peace. By the time the 10th story arrives, the night has already begun to loosen its grip on the world, not in a sudden way, but in that slow, almost invisible way that dawn has when the darkness is still present but no longer feels endless, and you can sense, somewhere beyond the walls, beyond the trees, beyond the valley, that the sky is preparing to change color, as if even the universe knows it is time to soften. Inside the hall of stories, the air feels warmer now, not because of heat, but because your own body has finally stopped bracing itself. Your shoulders no longer feel like they are holding up the whole world. Your jaw has unclenched without you even noticing, and your breathing has become the kind of slow, deep breathing that belongs to people who are not trying to win against life, but are finally allowing life to pass through them. The old monk sits quietly, and the lamp between you is little more than a glowing ember, a small steady heart of light that flickers now and then as if it is also growing sleepy, but still refuses to go out before the last lesson has been offered. The monk's face looks almost transparent in that glow, not because he is fading in a magical way, but because the calm he carries is so complete that it feels as though you can see through it, into something deeper, something older than words. He speaks, and his voice is so gentle it feels like it is woven into your breath. You have listened all night, he says, and you have heard many doors. The door of balance, the door of fear and desire, the door of anger and compassion, the door of guilt and wise remorse, the door of forgiveness, the door of ordinary life as practice, the door of identity and letting go. Now, I will tell you the last thing the Buddha offered again and again, because without it, the mind becomes clever, the heart becomes tired, and the path becomes a new kind of struggle. He pauses, and when he says the next word, it lands in the room like something both simple and holy. Kindness, he says. Not kindness as a performance, not kindness as a mask you wear to seem spiritual, but kindness as a living force that changes how your mind touches everything, including your own pain. There was once, he continues, a monk who practiced very hard and became very knowledgeable. He could recite teachings, explain them, correct others, and yet people did not feel peace near him. They felt small because his mind had become sharp like a knife, and he used that sharpness first on himself and then, without intending to, on everyone around him. He did not realize that he had turned wisdom into a weapon. The monk lets that image settle because you might recognize the feeling, the way a person can know many true things and still be harsh, still be impatient, still be cold, as if truth alone were enough to heal, when really truth without kindness can become a new kind of violence. This monk, the old monk says, came to the Buddha and said, "Blessed One, I am trying so hard. I follow the rules, I meditate, I study, I watch my mind, and yet I am still not peaceful. I feel irritated all the time. I judge myself, I judge others, I see their ignorance, and it makes me angry. What am I missing?" The Buddha did not argue with him. He did not embarrass him. He simply asked a question that slipped past the monk's pride and went straight to the center. When you practice, the Buddha asked, do you practice as a friend or as an enemy? The monk did not understand at first. I practice correctly, he said. I practice seriously. The Buddha looked at him with calm eyes. Yes, he said, but is your mind gentle with you as you practice? Or is it constantly punishing you, constantly insulting you, constantly demanding that you be different right now? The monk opened his mouth and then closed it again, because the answer was clear in a way he had been avoiding for a long time. My mind is harsh, he admitted quietly. I push myself. The Buddha nodded. Then you are watering the seeds of harshness every day, he said, and you are surprised when harshness grows. You cannot plant thorns and ask for roses. The hall feels even quieter as the monk tells this, because something in you understands that sentence without needing to think. The way you speak to yourself becomes the atmosphere you live inside, and you can practice for years. But if your inner voice is still cruel, you are building a temple out of stone and living in it without warmth. The Buddha said, the old monk continues, that effort is not enough, clarity is not enough, discipline is not enough, because without kindness, these things turn rigid, and rigidity is just another extreme. Kindness is what keeps the middle way alive, because kindness makes you flexible, patient, able to begin again without shame. The old monk looks at you, and his voice becomes even more intimate, as if he is speaking directly to the part of you that has tried to improve by attacking yourself. Buddha taught something called loving kindness, he says softly, and people often misunderstand it. They think it is sentimental, weak, like pretending everything is fine. But in truth, it is strong because it refuses to add more suffering to suffering. He continues the story. The Buddha instructed the monk to do something that felt almost insulting to his pride because it was so simple and so soft. He said, "For the next weeks, before you sit in meditation, you will place your hand on your chest and speak to yourself as you would speak to a frightened child. You will say, 'May I be safe.' You will say, 'May I be peaceful.' You will say, 'May I be free from unnecessary suffering.' You will not say these words as magic. You will say them as training, because your heart must be trained the way a wild animal is trained, not with violence, but with steady gentleness. Then, when you have offered these wishes to yourself, you will offer them to others, the people you love, the people you do not know, even the people you dislike, because your mind has become addicted to separation, and kindness is the medicine that dissolves it." The monk who received this teaching resisted at first because he thought, like many people think, that if he were gentle with himself, he would become lazy. He would lose discipline. He would stop improving, and he believed that harshness was the price of progress. But as he practiced the Buddha's simple instruction, he noticed something surprising. When he spoke to himself with kindness, his mind became less tight, his breath became softer, his attention became steadier, and discipline stopped feeling like punishment and began to feel like care. The old monk pauses, and then he offers you a truth that feels like a slow exhale. Kindness does not make you weak, he says. It makes you sustainable. He looks toward the door again, where the first thin light of dawn is now clearly present, turning the edge of the sky into a soft gray blue that feels almost like forgiveness. People break, he continues, not because they lack effort, but because they try to live without kindness, as if they were machines. They try to force their way into peace, and then they collapse, and they call it failure, and then they try again with more force, and the cycle continues. The Buddha ended this cycle not by adding more pressure, but by adding a different quality, the gentle strength of a heart that knows how to begin again. His voice becomes slower. Time to your breathing. So, if you want a final practice for tonight, he says, one that gathers everything you have heard into one simple living thread, it is this. As you lie down, as you feel your blanket, as you feel your breath, let your heart repeat a quiet wish, not as a performance, but as a way of turning your mind into a safe place. He speaks the wishes in a long, calm rhythm, as if each one is a wave that will carry you deeper into rest. May I be safe in this body tonight, even if it is tired. May I be peaceful in this mind tonight, even if thoughts still come. May I be kind to this heart tonight, even if it is still healing. May I let go of what I cannot control just for these hours of sleep. May I wake tomorrow with a softer breath and a gentler gaze. He pauses, then adds, with a tenderness that feels almost like being forgiven by life itself. And may all beings everywhere, even the ones who do not know how to be kind, even the ones who are lost in fear and desire, even the ones who have hurt and been hurt, find their way toward peace little by little, step by step, breath by breath. The hall is silent after that, and the silence feels full, not empty. It feels like the end of a long, careful conversation with your own soul. The old monk watches you, and you can feel that the stories are coming to a close, not because the path is finished, but because your body is ready to rest. The Buddha's wisdom, he says at last, his voice almost merging with the dawn, is not meant to make you perfect. It is meant to make you free. And freedom begins in small moments like this, when you stop fighting yourself and choose kindness instead. The ember of the lamp flickers one final time as if bowing, and then it dims, not into frightening darkness, but into the kind of darkness that feels like a soft blanket pulled over the mind. You do not have to hold on to every lesson. You do not have to remember every story. If one thing stays with you, let it be this: the middle way is not a path you walk by force. It is a path you walk by care, and the care begins right here, right now, in the way you allow your own tired heart to rest without punishment. Your breath moves in and out, slow, warm, steady, and as sleep finally arrives, it does not feel like falling. It feels like being carried gently by a kindness that has been waiting for you all along. The first light of morning is beginning to touch the edges of the world beyond the monastery, but it is still quiet enough that the night feels present, like a soft cloak you haven't fully taken off yet. And inside the hall of stories, the air holds that tender, suspended feeling that comes right before sleep finally wins, when your body is heavy and your mind has stopped insisting that it must solve everything before it can rest. The old monk sits across from you, and the lamp between you has almost no flame left, only a faint glow that warms the shadows rather than pushing them away, as if the light understands that darkness is not an enemy when it is gentle. And you can feel that the monk is choosing his words carefully now, not because he is trying to sound wise, but because he knows this part of the night is where the heart is most open, where a single sentence can sink deep and stay there. Kindness, he says softly, was the last lesson of the Buddha only in appearance, because in truth, kindness is the ground that holds every other lesson. Now, I want to speak to you about something that often prevents people from keeping that kindness alive, something that quietly steals their peace again and again without making a sound. He pauses, and in the pause, you can hear your own breathing, slow and steady. It is the mind's habit of living in tomorrow, he continues, the mind's endless planning, rehearsing, predicting, and trying to control the future as if control could make life safe, and as if safety were the same as peace. And this is one of the most powerful extremes because it can look responsible on the surface while it quietly poisons the heart with tension underneath. You might feel that truth immediately because you know what it is like to lie in bed with a tired body while your mind keeps running ahead, building scenes you have not lived yet, preparing for conversations that may never happen, solving problems that are not actually in your hands at this moment, and then calling it thinking when it is really a kind of inner storm. There was once, the monk begins, a man who came to the Buddha because he could not sleep. And the reason he could not sleep was not noise, not hunger, not illness, but a mind that believed rest was dangerous, because rest meant letting go of vigilance, and vigilance was the only thing he trusted. This man was a planner, the monk says, someone who believed that if he could prepare for every possible outcome, he could prevent suffering, and the strange tragedy was that his preparing did not prevent suffering at all. It only moved it into his mind, where it lived constantly, like a shadow that never left him even in bright daylight. He came to the Buddha and said, "Teacher, People say you have found peace, but I do not believe peace is realistic. Life is uncertain, people are unpredictable, bodies get sick, money disappears, accidents happen. And if I stop thinking ahead, if I stop planning, then I will be surprised by disaster, and surprise is what destroys a person. So tell me, how do you live without fear of the future? The Buddha looked at him calmly, and for a moment the man felt almost angry at that calm, because calm felt like ignorance to him or denial. And he thought, how can you sit like that when life is so unstable?